Regular town council meeting. Item 7, reports of committees, boards, and commissions. Economic Development Commission.
Yes, they met, and I thought certainly Deputy Mayor can collaborate. That the meeting was, I thought, very fruitful, and having Bert Sacco attend. He was a wealth of information, and I think he is interested in serving on the commission, and I think that would be a welcome addition given his background. And we talked a lot about the product in terms of appraisals and looking at the parcel, and he brought up a lot of marketing issues. We went through a long list of things that the commission was looking at with respect to what to do next, what to look at, and so forth. And part of it he had pointed out was the environmental issue of the site, and suggested we looked in the files to see if there's been a phase 1 or phase 2. I remember being a some environmental study done. I was able to locate a phase 2 study, so a phase 2 study was done on that. I'm still in the process of reviewing that, but I think there was a wealth of information there for us to look at, and for the commission to pursue. And looking at Mr. Kinney, who did the marketing aspect of it for the marketing plan, to go back to him to look at an appraisal in terms of value versus going out to an RFP at this point. So the next step is we're still gathering information. Alan Plaza is coming to the next meeting in September to talk about the potential concepts, if you will, in terms of what could be, what could be accommodated on that site. I'm tracking down traffic counts from the state of Connecticut, because Bert had suggested what was one of those other instances that he thought it would be important to know as much information about our parcel and how traffic flow, environmental, whatever we can bring to the table for the package that we ultimately send to a developer. The more information, the better. So he gave us a laundry list of things to do, and I thought it was an immensely productive session, and I think the members felt as well. So we're right on track. Again, Alan will be coming to the meeting with their concepts, and then the commission looked at setting another charrette process for the fall. So, and that would be, I would think, early to mid-October, I think, before the November Thanksgiving holiday.
I think Bert contacted me. He doesn't really want to be a member of the committee, but he will come to every meeting to help us.
Okay, great.
That's just as good, I guess.
Yes, it's good, yeah, absolutely.
So was I'm sorry, Michael, was the decision made to use Mr. Kinney to do the appraisal?
Well, yeah, I think it was a consensus that based on Bert's recommendation to say, listen, let's go back to him and to say, what kind of value would you put on it?
Yeah. Well, I thought his report was very valuable that he did. I think if he does appraisals, I think he'd be very appropriate.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to ask if we could move item D up. My understanding, Mr. Chody's here possibly, or is Don here?
Actually, Bill is...
I know he had another meeting.
He had another meeting,
yep.
So I may be as good as he gets. He is planning on coming, but so I don't know if you want to wait for him. Or
oh, okay. All right. All right. Thanks, Don. Item B, Permanent Project Building Committee.
Permanent project met in both July and August. The high school roof is progressing. We'll get a more detailed update from Bill or Don later on, but there have been a few change orders in regards to the roof. One was the chimney, one was the blocking of when they removed the flashings, they needed to do some blocking, so that was around $35,000. The chimney was an additional $5,000. Then there's asbestos removal that they found that was roughly $7,500. But it is progressing, but there have been a number of change orders with it. And as far as the STW, I know Public Works is up there working, and I am going to defer to Franny to give us an update as to what is happening in the parking lot area.
Yeah, we're on a full court press actually. We're getting, the lights are being installed now, but the foundations and all the conduit. We're still getting some quotes on the electrical work. That's gonna happen after it's paved. Tilcon is actually scheduled to come in tomorrow to start grading the newer section. And the sidewalk's supposed to go in tomorrow, but it's supposed to rain. So it looks like it's all Thursday, so sidewalks will be in by the end of the week. So the next couple of weeks are gonna be busy.
Okay, thank you. Well, that's all I have.
All right, thank you, Rose. Thank you, Fran. Item C, Board of Ed Town Council Communications Subcommittee. That meeting was postponed.
Both the July and August
July
due to
and
the summer
August,
schedule.
yeah.
We'll meet again in September.
Item D, I'll hold up unless you want to give, do you have anything, Don? Okay.
Bill has some more detail than I do, so it's probably better if we wait for him if you don't mind.
Okay, thank you. Town Manager's Report. Item A, Planning and Zoning, Personnel.
Yes, happy to report that we'll have the new person on board, Carrie Duquesne, on Monday, the 18th, so that's when her start date is. And if I can slide right into the secretary position, those interviews are scheduled and happening, so that's moving forward. And again, we're hoping just to, move as quickly as we can on that. So we'll finish up interviews next week. Hopefully, within that candidate pool, find us a candidate and select and have somebody, give notice and come on board as soon as we can. So we'll have a little bit of almost the same starting time frame, at least, for the secretary and the new planner. So it's moving along.
Okay, thank you. Item C, POCO Festival. Roseanne? Hi. Good evening.
Good evening. My name is Roseanne Krajewski, and I was the Potato and Corn Festival coordinator this year. I wanted to report on the success of the Potato and Corn Festival, which was just held from July 31st through August 3rd. Despite the weather, we had many people both near and as far away as Springfield, Mass. and Massapequa, New York, attend the festival throughout the 4 days. We also had over 140 volunteers assisting with prepping the potatoes, parking, serving potatoes and corn, ticket sales, information, setup, cleanup. Without these volunteers, and of course the Potato Festival Committee, which meets year-round, there would be no festival. We had the support of many town departments: the police department, fire marshal's office, building official, East Shore Health Department, and the Public Works Department. With everyone working together, this festival has become a true community event. Many people comment throughout the weekend, both the vendors and the visitors, as to how friendly and helpful everyone is. This speaks well to our town and our community as a whole. We have no firm numbers to date, as we are receiving invoices daily, but I can report that revenue from the craft vendors was consistent with last year's figures. Revenue from food vendor fees increased somewhat due to the increase in fees. These fees for the food vendors were based on the area of space that they required. That was why there was a change. The cow chip raffle revenue was down slightly from last year, as were monetary sponsorships. We did have 2 new sponsors this year, thanks to the referral by Anthony Esposito. However, in-kind sponsorships increased over the last year. Due to the inclement weather throughout the weekend, sales at the Potato and Corn booth were down slightly, as were amusement ride sales. However, parking revenue increased considerably due to the increase in the parking fee from $5 to $10. Parking on Thursday was free to North Branford residents, while shuttles were used more extensively throughout the weekend, particularly running full on Friday and Saturday evenings, which helped to alleviate some of the parking problems that we have had in the past. United Shoreline Federal Credit Union has become a major sponsor committed to the 5K cross-country race for the next 5 years. Some infrastructure upgrades were made, including bringing a water line to the outside food vendors as well as to the Potato and Corn booth. East Shore Health was particularly pleased with this upgrade. It appears we have stayed within budget for our entertainment over the weekend, thanks in large part to an extremely generous donation from Northeast Midways, our amusement company, for our entertainment on Thursday night with a past American Idol, Kendall Phillips. Again, invoices are coming in daily and credits are forthcoming on some items. We will have a more complete picture within the coming months. We still have some outstanding issues, mainly the need to purchase a reliable cooker. Despite the repairs made to the Good To Go's cooker this year, we did experience several issues over the weekend with the cooker. We would also like to explore additional ideas for revenue, which could include space for a zip line, petting zoo, and pony rides, as well as a wine and beer tent. Our sponsor party would benefit greatly by allowing us to serve beer and wine under the food tent on the Sunday before the festival. The Recreation Department and the Festival Committee would like to thank the Town Council for their continued support as we move forward to our 14th year. We strongly believe that this wonderful event brings numerous people to our community, spotlights the town in a good light, and hopefully brings additional revenue to local businesses throughout the weekend. We do have a wrap-up Potato Festival Committee meeting tomorrow evening, 6 o'clock, at the STW Community Center. We welcome anyone who is interested to attend to come to our festival committee meetings. And I'd also like to just pass out a letter that one of our committee members just passed it along. And I'm open to any questions, comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Roseanne. Community events and presentations. Item 10, citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence. Item 11, resignations and appointments. Item A, appointment Rose Angeloni to Park and Recreation Commission as town liaison, or town council liaison.
Second. Do we want to make the motion? I'll
Yeah.
make the motion. Make the move.
I'll second.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Busey. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Abstain.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Hodgson?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move the appointment of Frank Pagano to the Board of Assessment Appeals, replacing Jack Zephyr.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Councilor Fucy. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Hodgson?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Mr. Chody, would you like to come up? I know you just came in, but I didn't want you to bend twice, so I figured.
He left it all to you.
Sorry, the game.
Just a quick update on the schools.
Yeah, I just want to let you know, I apologize for my tardiness. I was at the Tutucket TV board meeting.
Sure.
Well, let's see, where can we start? We can start with the rooftop ventilators at the high school roof project. Right now, that work is ongoing. The contractor is assisting us in getting everything up on the roof. We are installing dampers, and we are installing the ventilators that can be installed at this time where the roof is completed. So that's all we're waiting for, is them to put the gravel down, and then we can keep going. We have set a priority. The kitchen will be number 1, bathrooms will be number 2, and then classroom areas will be number 3. So that's where we're moving with that.
Were you able to order the ones, the special sized units?
We got
you're
'em.
talking about? You got them in and everything?
Yeah,
Good.
we got them, yeah. There's only, I think, maybe 2 or 3 that are still in limbo.
Yeah.
So that's, but it's not going to slow us down.
Oh,
We're going
good.
to keep moving forward. The track, the high school track. We met with the people that were vendors for CREC. We finally got one number back. That number is approximately 92.5. That would include the repair of the track surface, also coating it with a urethane finish and restriping it. We're kind of figuring that because it's a correct number, that's a per unit number, and it seems like if anyone is in the correct consortium, they're going to come in basically with the same number. So we don't see a whole lot of change in there. The restrooms at the high school, we really made some real good progress with that. I met last week with the town building official. We looked at all the areas. We discussed what could be done. We're looking at handicap access for all of the bathrooms. And right now, he has told me what I need for his paperwork. So it's going to be some plans, double set. We need a set of plans for the entire building, and he is working with us 100% on this. I can't say that we're going to have anything up and running for the school year, but we do have 2 bathrooms right now, boys and a girls, that are handicap accessible. So we do have something in the building. So we're making real good progress on that. That's all I got.
So on the high school roof project, substantial completion is supposed to be done by this Friday. Where are we on that? I believe
well,
the 15th was the date in the...
Substantial completion, it depends on really who defines it. From my standpoint as a building user, I'm looking at a watertight envelope. Whether or not they have, trim around the edges or, they're 100% complete, that's a discussion that you would have to have with your architect, which I believe he is the clerk of the works on that project. We really don't have anything to do with that, but like I said, we're shooting for the 15th. We have a watertight envelope. That's what we want.
So he's close to that? I mean, it's 3
real
days away.
Close, and I'll tell you why. Tomorrow's supposed to rain like heck, and we will know for sure what's going on up there.
Trial by fire.
Okay.
That's okay. Anything else? That's it.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, sir.
Item 12, unfinished business, discussion and action. Item A, update to the defined benefit plan, that's still tabled. Item B, approval of the South Central Regional Special Weapons and Tactics SWAT Team Mutual Police Assistance Compact. Chief. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thanks for inviting us tonight. With me, I have Lieutenant Reba, who's a SWAT team leader for North Branford, and also Lieutenant Glenn, who is a member of the North Haven Police Department. He's the commander. I'm sure any questions that you have, if they could come forward with your
Sure.
permission, they could answer your questions.
All right, thank you. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you for inviting us.
I think the big question is, individual towns' equipment, who's responsible if something happens, like, say, a motor goes or something? Who's responsible for the equipment, town by town?
Sure. Article 6 in the agreement spells the liability out specifically for equipment. The town that owns the equipment is responsible for the replacement or the repair of any equipment, no matter what jurisdiction they're in.
So if Madison runs through somebody's house with that 60-ton troop carrier that they have, and they break something on it, and I mean, that's got to be a multi-million-dollar vehicle. They're responsible for that repair, and not the town of North Branford?
I believe you're referring to the MRAP, the mine resistant.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, that's not a South Central Regional SWAT asset.
Okay.
So that won't be.
So that's not, we don't
won't
have
be
to worry
deployed.
about repairing that.
It won't be deployed when we're deployed.
Good. I
That's
don't
all
think
by
something like that's
Madison.
actually necessary, but whatever.
The same thing applies to personnel, just so we can clear that up. We're only responsible for our own personnel. If we had mutual assistance from another town, they came into North Branford, somebody was injured in the line of duty here, their town is responsible for their manpower. That's how that works.
I mean, we just purchased a trailer not too long ago
Correct.
to set up for SWAT. And that's our trailer, which is utilized or mobilized along with the,
Right, that goes out on every deployment and every training exercise. That's basically for our own manpower.
Right.
There's equipment within there that the entire team will use.
Right.
And we are responsible for that equipment.
right. And then the training and whatnot, you all train together. It's like a regional type.
Yeah, the training requirements won't be increased with this expansion of the regional effort. We all train together to national standards in terms of hours per month and completing core competencies for the tactical team.
Right. But it's like a mutual aid type thing, right? Where
Yeah, I'm sure you can.
we all get together.
No, I don't believe that.
Are we- you guys have your own meeting or-
Are there any costs involved in terms of being part of the team?
There's no like membership or anything like that. I mean, we all work together. We've had a compact with North Haven for 20 years. We've worked together as a combined team. We brought East Haven in a few years back. They needed some assistance. They came with us, and it's my understanding that the other 3 towns that wished to join approached us in order to become part of it. There's a lot of benefits that go along with that. Now we can serve other communities that are close to us. And in the event we have a large tactical operation, we've all trained together, so we all know how each other thinks and how each party trains. That's one of the big aspects of a large event. You have multi-teams coming in who have never trained together, and it becomes a more difficult situation when that happens.
Yeah, excuse me. Let me ask you this question, because it wasn't entirely clear to me in reading the document. If North Haven, for instance, happens to smash into one of the North Branford vehicles and damages it substantially, the way I read the agreement is we can't seek reimbursement from North Haven or any other community in the pact. But what happens when we make our claim against our insurance and the insurance company says, well wait a minute, you have to go against North Haven? Is there any coordination between this agreement and the individual towns' insurance policies?
Our insurance carrier has vetted this agreement. Our town council has vetted the agreement. I don't know if that answers your question.
So, well, it does for North Haven, but maybe what you're saying is that North Branford should have it vetted with its insurance company to make sure that we're not waiving any rights to reimbursement from our own insurance company when the liable party, because of our private agreement, isn't going to be liable. So I think the whole agreement should just be brought to the attention of our insurance company and make sure that there's no gaps there. Because the way it's set up is everybody's responsible for their own personal property damage, life and injury damage, and that's pretty easy to understand. The only question is, what happens if your own company says that, well, this is not an uninsured collision or someone you don't know who hit you. The liable party is North Haven, you have to proceed against North Haven. And probably your insurance company says, fine, we'll pay it like anything else. But we should probably make sure our insurance company has the same viewpoint. So that if that's not correct, we're not stuck, or any other community is stuck.
So I don't think that, nobody had, I don't think anyone up here had any issue with what you've done in the past. The light bulb went off for me, when I saw Madison wanted to join. And so we all know that Madison received one of the $750,000 government personnel carriers that I'm going to assume is going to be part of them in their training. So when we read this stuff, and I just had John read the paragraph here, not being a lawyer, there were exemptions to, like let's say that thing gets destroyed, that my whole thing was don't go in with Madison and we don't have to worry about it. But the way it's written, it would appear that they own it. Now, I can tell you this, because I do know, they took some heat accepting that for free from the federal government because of the same concerns we have. That, wait a minute, we got this 80,000 pound, dinosaur that now we're gonna go out and try and run on the roads. They have low bridges, and they took a lot of heat. And it got back to me that the comment was made, all the towns were gonna share in the maintenance. So that they were telling their people that, to shut them up, oh, don't worry about it. There's 7 towns in this group. So that's where our concerns come from. But, John just read this paragraph, so I guess I have no problem with it, based on him providing our insurance company has no problem with it.
So, I mean, we could get some kind of assurance that we're not responsible for that thing.
Yeah, we don't want to be responsible.
That's what it is. We don't want to be, bottom line, we don't want to be responsible.
I don't know if they're going to use it with their SWAT
I
thing or
don't know
not.
if you were busy talking to the town attorney when the lieutenant said, that's not part of the SWAT call-out. That has nothing to do with the SWAT team.
Yeah, but by a simple, hey, let's go for a ride in this thing. Yeah.
It won't be deployed on any SWAT mission for any of the 6 towns. If they want to use that for rescue, for a hurricane on a beach area, that's fine. But as far as anything to do with a SWAT mission or SWAT training.
Are you sure it would run right through this building?
You won't see it in our town. You won't see it. I know it was at Midway for.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's what started.
Well, Chief, you'll get a kick out of it. I saw it at Midway. I stopped and I said, please tell me that this isn't North Branford.
Well, this is a town
And I was
of
happy to
rumors.
hear it was
It's
Madison's.
a town of rumors, and I'm sure the town manager could attest to that. It's a town of rumors. We have nothing to do with that, whatever you call it, the tank. Lieutenant from North Haven has the proper terminology, but that's not part of the
I think it's a
SWAT
personnel carrier or something. It's armored personnel.
It's a mine-resistant
A
armor.
mine-resistant.
Mine-resistant armor, so,
But I
It's
know
heavy
you're
duty. I
working
climbed up in
with
it.
the town attorney.
One each doors.
So
for
Chief,
IDs and stuff.
Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, SWAT is deployed more than we know. I mean, I know a few weeks ago, Hillary Clinton was in Madison, and SWAT was probably deployed as security, and they probably had a few of the towns
Yes,
involved.
North Branford was there.
Right.
North Branford was housed in a firehouse across the street from where she did her book signing.
Right.
However, SWAT's deployed on some high-risk search warrants. But it never makes the paper, but
Right.
we do it. We did it a couple of weeks ago on a Saturday morning. And we're gonna do it again this Saturday, where if we know that drugs are being sold out of a house and there's weapons involved from our informants, we will use the SWAT team to go there on a high-risk search warrant.
Right.
It's done without any fanfare, not like you see on TV where there's 30 guys in the back of a van, and I don't know how they even get out of that van because it's bouncing around. It's organized. The commander here from North Haven has everybody well-trained, and if there is an issue at one of the schools, our response time is 45 minutes. If you dissolve the SWAT team, which I know that's not your intention, you have to rely on the state police. You're talking a 2-hour response time because they come from all over the state. They could be in Talent, they could be in Bethel. So it's something that we use. We don't use it often, but we certainly use it enough that it's a worthwhile asset for the community.
Right.
But the tank is not part of it.
Right.
Okay.
So basically, I think, we could approve this contingent upon John just looking up the insurance.
The insurance.
Well, it has to go to the insurance company.
I would say John approves it, but it should be referred to the insurance company to make sure that they're not interpreting it as us waiving our right to go against another party in that compact who's liable, and therefore say, well, you waived your right to seek damages against all 6 other towns, and so, too bad, we're not paying. I think there has to be some coordination, but I would leave that to the insurance companies. I think we should start with our insurance company. The intent of the compact is everybody pays their own costs in life, limb, or property. And if that's the case, if it happens that one of the parties to this compact is the liable party for the damage to another person or piece of property of a town in the compact, then how do you reconcile that when you file a claim under your insurance policy and they say that, well, you have to proceed against the liable party's insurance company, or we're not going to, reimburse you. So, I mean, I just don't want us to find out after the fact, and I think it's certainly something that can be easily coordinated.
So,
but I just refer to our insurance carrier.
So I just say we.
approve it contingent
Well, I
upon
would
our
just say
insurance
just
carrier?
table it until it's 3 weeks. We should be able to get an answer from the insurance company by our next meeting.
I would hope so, yeah.
Either way, or we can approve it contingent upon the insurance company.
Approve it contingent
Yeah,
upon.
right.
This way it's done, and
It's off the agenda.
if it comes back that it's not right or whatever, then it's not approved.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Mayor?
We table
I'll
enough
make a
stuff.
motion that we approve of the South Central Regional Special Weapons and Tactics, SWAT Team Mutual Police Assistance Compact, contingent upon a review by the town attorney and the insurance company.
I'll second that.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Wentworth, seconded by Counselor Diamond. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Hodgson?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Chief, while you're here, I have one question. I've been receiving a lot of calls on the quad situation, and I know we've discussed it before. Is there anything we can do to, or,
This has been an ongoing
I know.
problem, Mr. Mayor, as you know. There's a hotline, tip line that was set up coordination with the New Haven Police Department. We need help from the residents. They know who the people are that are on the farmer's property, tearing up the potato and corn festival property that the town owns. We cannot, we have a no chase policy. We're not gonna chase.
right,
And I know we're on TV, but we're not gonna chase.
not ATVs?
Right. We're not gonna chase on the roads. We're certainly not gonna chase in the fields. Which means tank.
I'm thinking you just gotta buy a faster quad.
But what we need is some cooperation from the public. New Haven, some of the residents have been filming the offenders, and that was public, and some identification's been made. But when they wear a helmet with a smoke-colored visor, it's difficult for us to identify.
Right.
But we've been told that they're coming in with pickups and trailers and unloading them and stuff there.
On Auger Road,
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Auger property, it's being destroyed by quads.
They're not coming in on trailers, they're not coming in on trucks. They're locals.
It's neighborhood kids.
There was an article, I think yesterday's paper, or the day before, about East Haven. The quads were circling cars and they're throwing rocks at the cars. And people videotaped them and they went for arrest warrants because they did identify it. That was a big article.
Well-
But we do have the tip line, it's in Pawtucket Times. It was also, the lieutenant did an article on the quads for the parents, their responsibility. And also there's articles, several articles in the Haven Register for the tip line.
Well, that's the only reason why I brought it up, because I get constant letters, and I know you're CC'd on them, and a lot of people don't sign their names, and I know they know it's their neighbor, and nobody wants to, tell who it is, but,
Last year I stood in front of this council, and you had a person that came up here and said, I know who they are.
right,
I'm sure the council remembers that, but I'm not gonna say it because
Right.
they're neighbors.
right.
And I said, well, I need your help. And it's just like, well, you catch them. How are you gonna catch them?
Right,
Every town is grappling with the same thing.
yeah.
Same thing.
I wasn't sure if other towns put together like a task force or something.
We
for
went out with Madison, we went out with Guilford, they had an airplane, we went out with the water company, and some apprehensions were made on the water company property that day. The airplane was spotted. But it's costly.
Yeah. So now, if you catch them, can you confiscate the ATV?
Yes.
You can? Okay. Good.
So the only thing I'll, share with the council is, so I don't believe it's the quads from Northford, but, you know, I've got a cornfield down on 139 by the railroad tracks, and we lost, the next 3 plantings due to quads going in there and deciding they could just run it over. And so my warning to these kids on quads is you are dealing with farmers, and where you think that you can come in and run in the field, there very well could be a 6-foot ditch, a wire across, and many things. So I'm not gonna sit there and lose money just because, and I called the Branford PD, the point of my story, and I got the same story. What are we gonna do? So, you know, I'll have to go out there and catch them.
And I know they're doing damage to town property.
So, it's nuts.
But we're on TV, I just asked for the public's help.
Right, that's why I'm asking too.
Asking and asking.
Right.
And you'll get a letter.
Could I have order, please? Please, could I have order? The chief speaking. Go ahead, chief, I'm sorry.
We will receive a letter, they see Stephen Enos, like you said, but they will not identify themselves or the perpetrators, if they just will not do it.
Oh, hopefully this plea will help, and I hope the public does call and help. So,
Thing is, we don't want these kids to get hurt either, you know? And them running and stuff like that, and it's just asking for trouble.
Just want to add something, if that's okay. Some of the officers have made apprehensions of juveniles and have taken them home to the parents. And part of the responsibility obviously lies with the parents and being responsible for their children. A lot of the feedback from the parents is against us. And the response to them is, why are you bothering my kid? He's not doing anything wrong. You try to explain it to them, catch them on the road, catch them on private property or town-owned property, and they're basically telling us that, you know, we should find better things to do than to bother their kids.
right.
Can we keep the quads?
You can, but only for a limited amount of time. Chances are you're not going to keep them indefinitely. You can have them towed from the scene, but they're going to get them back. Yes.
What are the impounding charges?
That's up to the tow companies. They have
But it's
state.
paid by, for them.
It's by day.
Yeah, and they
It's by
have to
day.
pay that in order to retrieve.
They would have to pay that.
Yeah.
And they get fined for the actual event. Parents can be fined for allowing the operation, things like that, but it's monetary. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But we take a lot of flack for it, just so the council knows.
Well, make no mistake, I appreciate what you do, and I'm not knocking you guys. I'm trying to get the word out, because I'm getting a lot of letters on it, and
Well, you would hope that
I know
these
it's
parents would
difficult.
respect other people's property like they want their property respected. You don't want somebody coming on your lawn and driving around your house digging your lawn up if you're fertilizing and seeding it and taking care of it. I mean, honestly, it really lies with the parents telling their children, look, don't go destroy other people's property. If you want to ride this, you're going to have to ride it in our yard or somewhere where it's approved. And it's just not, it's honestly probably not going to happen, but that's the way it should be.
I also have a question on bikes that are street legal. Do the kids still have to be 16 and have a driver's license to ride them on the road?
The scooters, I think she's talking about.
I don't know, you see a lot of kind of like, they're not scooters, they're not like Vespas, they're
Oh, those are the
like
pocket-
dirt bikes
the
or the
pocket
pocket bikes.
Right, they don't need a motorcycle license, but they do need to be a licensed operator.
Right, so they would, well, no, they're bigger than mopeds.
it's like those pocket rockets they have in New Haven.
What, the
I think
50
is what she's talking
cc
about.
scooters and stuff
You know,
like
and
that?
because I've seen a number of them, and the kids say, well, this is a street legal bike. But I know that they're not 16, because they're, you know.
Your bike is street legal, they're not street legal.
Right, so they have to have a motorcycle license or a.
But just like anything else, we have to have a violation in order to stop them. We can't just stop people for random checks.
Right.
Okay.
So they have to be committing some other offense for them to be stopped, and then the license process would take effect.
Okay.
Well, I'd like to thank you all. I'd like to thank you all. You're doing a great job, and thank you very much.
Thanks for coming and explaining that.
There's another compact that I got.
Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
next
we have
one.
one more compact too, I think, to do, traffic.
Oh, what's the next one?
That's gonna fall under the same umbrella.
Yeah,
Traffic. Same thing.
probably less problematical, actually, so.
Okay. All right, thanks for your time.
All right, thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you. Thank you.
I can move the motion on the traffic one.
Go ahead.
I move the motion that we
There you go.
approve the South Central Connecticut Regional Traffic Unit Mutual Police Assistance Compact.
Second.
Do you want the same
What was the same
contingency?
one?
That with the insurance
With the
company?
insurance company.
Second.
All right, moved by Counselor Diamond, seconded by Counselor, Deputy Mayor Wentworth. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Hutchison?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Okay, where are we? All right, item D, Old Senior Center, possible reuse. Item I, food bank. I
Yeah,
think
you
left at our desk, there was some information.
Yeah, you should all have a packet that was emailed. It wasn't ready for the mailing, but it was emailed, and you should also have it as a backup copy in print for you. In terms of a meeting I had with the principals involved in the two parties, the two organizations, both the food pantry and the Friends of the Library. So I met with Lynn Reardon, Frank Forgione, Liz Kaplan, and brought in town staff, building official, fire marshal, to begin to, and Public Works, to begin to look at any other issues beyond the floor layout that I think was asked for. So looking at that, what needs to be done in terms of life safety code issues, approaching it that way and identifying what needs to be done. So we had talked about other issues in terms of, painting, but painting isn't exactly, it's more of a cosmetic, it's not a requirement that would preclude them from moving in. So the fire marshal identified a alarm system that needs to be tested, and he also indicated that they needed to test for a separation in terms of storage use in 1 hour, and I can report that that was done, and that both the system is fine and the fire rating is there. So those issues aren't issues anymore, but they've been confirmed that they're in place. Next is the exterior stairs on the west side of the building. I call them stairs because it's not the ramp. It's just another means of egress. That was torn off some time ago. That needs to be replaced before anybody can go in. And then that leaves the ramp on the other side of the building that is functional, but yet not code. And so that's what Fran was working on to get that quote. It hasn't been bid, so it is, it's a turnkey type of quote at this point. And without, I guess you could whittle away at it with Fran's help and or the labor and stuff that they could do potentially to bring that number down. That came in about, I think you have that information, at $29,000 for the ramp. But again, that's just a quote. We haven't bid it. And the side staircase at $1940. So those are the capital costs. I know there's some other issues in terms of the the lease and how to structure the lease and the floor layout. You also have submitted from Lynn and Frank the layout that shows that they're looking for the back portion to be separated as storage in order to bring in donations and to sort. And have office space, or not office space, but it's just a desk and computer. And the middle section for the pantry itself for the shelving and food items, both perishable, non-perishable. Clearly, the issue was raised of whether they be preparing meals or cooking. That is not the case. They will not be cooking or preparing meals. But they had asked for space in looking at refrigeration in terms of milk and cheese and meats, I believe. The senior center, when operational, had a bank of 4 to 5 refrigerators/freezers in there. They're since moved out when they made the move. So the capacity to do that is there. If that's agreeable to council in terms of the lease. So we were looking at this not having the money in the budget to carry the utilities, to flip this around and have the town pursue the capital ramp issue and staircase and have them pay the first year's utility in the lease and then revert back in the second and third years or going forward after that to allow us time to know what the numbers are and to budget the utilities. So that's where we're at this point.
Where's the lease?
Do we have a lease yet?
I have not seen the lease. I think that was between Frank and John, and I think it's, I'm not sure what you want in the lease other than, you know, you outlined a certain term of the lease that you wanted multiple years.
Well, how about if we start with streamlining this whole thing? It seems like it got really bloated all of a sudden, and it's kind of, I mean, $30,000 for a handicap ramp, where's that coming from?
That's from Munger, I think, is what.
Yeah, Fran, I mean, that sounds outrageous, $30,000 for a handicap.
It's a turnkey, is everything, the demo, the ripping it out, the digging it, it's gotta be bigger than it is. You have to have railings, custom-made railings for the handicap ramp on both sides.
Now, you have to have a certain contractor that does this, that's state approved or something, or can we get a contractor to do it cheaper?
Ben, this is just a quote for you guys for informational reasons.
Right.
It's not bid out yet. If we could get quotes, we get more quotes. You guys asked for a number. I got you a good number to go by. That's what it's gonna be, around that number. It could be a little cheaper, and it could be higher.
Mhm.
Is there savings there? Absolutely. But, you know, you're asking, you can't, you know, until you commit to the project that we're gonna do it, then I'll go get 3 quotes, or we'll put it out to bid and see where the rocks fall.
Well,
So I gave you a number that you can use.
Right.
Right.
A reasonable budget
Right.
number.
Yeah.
Right. You did what we asked for you, Fran.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
know, you can't, you know, you're not, this is not the number for the project. It's a budgetary number for you. And it's not that far off, I can tell you that. You have to do demo alone, that's including fixing asphalt. You know, there's a whole bunch of things that go into it.
Right, no,
You have to get rid of this stuff.
this can't be done in
We
a
can't
different
spend this
way?
kind of money.
Absolutely could be done in a different way.
Okay.
I mean, I could do the demo work.
Well, that's what I'm trying to get at. We need to streamline this process, because honestly, things get so bogged down, and we try and do something that's good and right, and we need to expedite the process, and it's a good thing. I believe in this, and I think we need to help our people as much as we can,
Absolutely.
especially us who are more fortunate than other people.
We're just looking, on my end, the only thing I'm looking for is that we're going forward with what capital parts of this. We're gonna do the back stairs, which we have to do, and are we gonna do the ramp? Are we gonna divert the ramp and just do some repairs for right now?
Right.
Or do it after? We're just looking for a direction. You guys tell us what you wanna do. Are we even paying for it? I don't know.
As far as Park and Rec and the gymnastics program, where's that information as far as what's going to happen to that? Where is it going to operate out of? How often does it operate? What kind of income do they have from it?
The revenue, well, the first half of it is they're operating right now, and they got moved and displaced to another location. It's entirely up to the council to decide where the reuse of that program, or if that program continues. It won't continue if it has no home. So it's a legitimate question that you raise in terms of if the pantry comes in and occupies that space, they really only have $15.99 to use, and that's short term, because we're looking at obviously selling that and getting a developer to do whatever they're going to do on it.
Well, I'm not in favor of opening $15.99
Yeah,
for
right.
one little program, and
Right.
we have no information on it,
Right.
as far as how many participants, how long does it run, how many sessions are there, what's the income from it, will it support opening $15.99?
What's the cost to run it?
I mean, these are all,
It's a very small program. Lauren had indicated there were about 9 individuals. They run each Wednesday for 10 weeks, and that's it. And so
Now, isn't there a gym at the community center and everything? But that can't be used for that.
No, it can't be used for that. I don't believe the ceilings are high enough.
Well,
No, the gym, it could operate in the gym.
Good. I think it's a programmatic.
It's
Yeah.
for little kids.
No, but I'm talking about the gymnastic equipment itself, setting it up in there and everything. There's not enough room.
We used to do it in the high school gymnastics. We used to have gymnastics in high school.
Yeah, I thought you were talking about the gym up at Stanley T. Williams.
Yeah, we are. He
I
did,
was,
he
yeah.
was.
Oh, put it in that
This is little
gym.
kids, they don't have the big
So you're talking about
gymnastics.
using the gym, all right.
The gym up there.
I was confused. I thought you were talking about
No, we got a
the
gym
other
up there. I
gym.
mean, for 9 kids that are little, I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
No, but the big problem up there is storage. They have nowhere to store the gymnastic
Well, I
equipment when
don't
it's
think
not in
they're
use.
using, like, beams and stuff.
Yeah, there's quite a bit of equipment. You could ask Franny, I mean, they moved it 3 times. There's quite a bit of gym equipment.
Right, they're using the walking beams and all that stuff, and the parallel bars.
Yeah.
Uneven bars, balance beam.
And there's nowhere to store it.
pads.
There's nowhere to store that at STW.
Not really. It's stuff in the corner.
Yeah.
A lot of mess.
And the revenue is
It's
minuscule.
probably loses money.
So I think it's just whether or not there's an alternative space to be found for that program in the summer, or it disbands.
It only runs for 10 weeks the whole year?
That's my understanding, was just this time frame that it came up, right? So for, the summer, and it ends, I think, in 2-3 weeks, I think it ends. So my
They don't
understanding.
repeat it at all during the whole year?
They may. I don't know the answer. My impression was it was just this summer program. It may run through the winter. I don't know the answer to that.
Okay.
So a lease has been drafted in boilerplate with some big gaps in it. And that's been negotiated for the past couple of weeks with an attorney from my office and Judge Forgione. And most recent document was exchanged today, and I don't think there's any disagreement on what's in it. It's what's not in it. And some of the things that you're saying right now should be articulated in terms of who's going to be, if we're going to be doing all the improvements in the first year, and then in the second year and thereafter, then it's up to the food bank folks, and they pay $1 a year. Once you identify the space that's being used, and once you identify the obligation of the town in terms of construction, and if there's going to be any hours that are involved that have to do with the town's interests, the last thing I would ask the town to think about is the way the lease would be constructed is that at some point after the first year, let's say, the food bank folks would be paying $1 a year for a 3-year lease with the right to renew the lease for another 3 years ad infinitum, which is fine for the food bank. But if you, and I recommend that you do have a provision in there that allows the town, if at some point in the future they need that space or desire to take that space back, that they have the right to not renew the lease, because obviously the food bank people are going to come up with $1 each year. And basically we're giving them an indefinite lease. And hopefully there won't be any need to take over that space, but we don't know what will happen in the future. We don't know if it's to everybody's interest that the food bank move at some point, but it seems to me that we both ought to have the right to look at the lease every 3 years or so.
Right.
So I would look for, and I think that we talked about that, and I don't know that we've come to a consensus on that yet.
What questions are we trying to answer tonight? Like, I'm not sure in terms
Well,
of.
we're trying to finish the lease.
Okay.
And some of the main ingredients of the lease is the space the obligations of the parties in terms of rent or in lieu of rent, the construction work, and something, and I guess there's not going to be refrigeration. Some of the things that we heard tonight, I would want to have copies of, because we want to put that in. And then the last thing that's of concern to me is that, and I think as far as liability insurance goes, that's already in there. We're able to handle that, but, and who pays the premium, but I would like to have the town be protected in revisiting the lease the same every 3 years as the food bank revisits it. Because the dollar a year is not useful for that.
Before we discuss the lease, I have a question. Where are we gonna come up with the money that you're talking about here in terms of all the improvements that have to be made? This is a very noble gesture, but it's very expensive.
We had talked about, as a capital project, being eligible to take out of the bond funds that we had done.
It's the bonded money.
It's extra.
Using the same
From
model that we did
NBIS.
for the
Where's
school.
extra money
The NBIS.
coming from?
How we bought the fire truck.
Yeah, it's the same place, the same bond, the money that's been bonded, that's the excess money that we've used.
We started from a project that
Right.
we all recognize the importance of providing community services. And we're sitting here, and I can sense the sense of guilt. It's what's driving everybody to make a decision that is not being driven by dollars and cents. We started with a concept that was going to be funded by Matt's mission.
Right.
It can't be. We talked last time and said, wait a minute, we've got to get some hard numbers and understand where we're going. We've now gotten some numbers from Fran, which unfortunately are very hard. And we talked about, before knowing these numbers, whether or not we could divert capital improvement bond money to do the improvements to the building. We now have to decide, are we in a position to take $60,000 of taxpayer money, call it capital improvement money, call it current revenue, call it whatever you want, $60,000 of taxpayer money to devote to a very, very good project. I want to say without hesitation, if Frank called me or this lady came to me and said, we want to do this project, what do you think and will you donate? I'd gladly open my checkbook and make a donation because it's the right thing to do. We're sitting here as representatives of the taxpayers.
Right.
We now have a prospective $60,000 bill for a very good project. Are you prepared to commit $60,000 or something in that neighborhood to this project? Unless somebody's got another idea, which I'd love to hear, I'm concerned.
A lot of people on this
Because
council.
the project is now driving the cost, rather than the cost
Yeah.
being the first consideration, and that's wrong.
A lot of people on this project had no qualms whatsoever about giving almost 9% to teachers over 3 years. That was hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Nobody here voted for that, Vin.
Right.
That was the Board of Education.
Right.
That went to arbitration, and nobody here had a voice in that.
That's right.
This is $60,000 in taxpayer money. I want to know where it's going to come from.
Right.
Question,
We
so
just told you.
Is it possible that instead of doing capital improvement projects, that money, the money is put into a specific fund? For example, like I've been working on the dog park, and we have a special fund just for that money, just for that project. I mean, it seems reasonable that money could be donated to the town in order to do these projects for the, in honor of or for the food bank. I mean, that would, then those people who wanted to contribute to the beginning cost.
In other words, like, do it similar to the dog park,
Well,
where you
I mean,
raise money
it's
to...
It's different, because the dog park is a town park.
Right.
And from the very beginning, we knew that the town, it's a town park. It's on the town's time.
The thing is, we're giving our own taxpayers food that need help with this project. It's their own tax money going back to themselves.
I'm totally for food.
Right, but it's their own tax
We
money
already have two.
going
But I'm
back
just
to
trying to find
themselves.
out. The question I'm
That's
asking
the
is, how do
thing.
we go, and if the concern, I think this is a great project. I'd love to see our town building be used for worthy cause like this. I think that's a great thing. The question is, how do you pay for it, and how do you get both? So I'm trying to be
just said
creative.
how we paid for
I'm
it.
sorry.
I know, but
I'm just not finished, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But in terms of what I'm trying to come up with is a solution for how do you do that? In one way, if you don't want to take it out of the capital budget, or you don't want to have people pay for their taxes, then you have people donate the money give donations to the town in honor of that for these projects. I mean, that would be tax deductible. It would be, it's another way to do this. Like, there's a lot of ways to make this happen that I think we just need to get this out in the open and talk about these things, because I would love to see this happen. I just want to make sure that everyone is comfortable, the people that are motivated to run the project and the people that are responsible for, you know, when we're out of this room and when you're bombarded with I can't believe you did that. You know, there's a lot of responsibilities. I feel responsible for.
Right.
I'm a Democrat. I feel responsible for everyone.
Being a Democrat or Republican.
But you know, it's not
I'm a
question.
Republican and I care about my people more than anybody.
Look, I'm a physician. I'm in the helping. This is not a question of whether this is a good thing. This is a question of how do we go about this in the smartest way to make it really happen. Like that's where we are. Because if we have lots of people that want things to happen, and we have a group of people that have the power to make it happen, but feel hesitant about it, then we're at a standstill, and we need to figure out the issues there. That's where we are. I mean, I want this to happen. I don't want it to go in a way where anyone feels uncomfortable. We have to feel good about this.
Let me attack the financial issue and take something that Fran just offered. If we were to look at the ramp, which is obviously the biggest cost, the staircase on the back side, the west side, is going to cost about $2,000, right? The issue is we just left that building. If we can repair or shore that up with some other reasonable accommodation for anyone in a wheelchair to bring that service to them, could we eliminate potentially a short-term, low-cost repair, because it was functional and is functional, that we get everything that we need with a low cost there on a repair, and it's still functional, and a repair on the $2,000 repair, so we're looking at, you know, something in the magnitude of, I don't know, $2,000 and $6,000 or $8,000 or maybe $10,000. You know, I'm just throwing it out there because I think you know, we have something that is functional, but just not maybe code with. But I think under ADA law that you can make reasonable accommodations. That might be one way. Just throwing it out there to.
Well, that was going to be my question: is could we open it with the existing ramp that we have and make whatever repairs? I mean, this is all the building official and the fire marshal.
Right.
And would they? Is that allowable, or do we have to have a brand new ramp?
Yeah.
I mean, that's.
And I think maybe if we repair and make reasonable accommodations, I think that might be something to pursue. I don't have the answer, and clearly it's in there.
The question, Michael, is who's going to pay for that, though? That's the big.
Well,
that's the
I mean,
elephant in the room is
to
who's
me,
gonna pay
a
for that?
$10,000 you know, it's magnitude, right? I mean,
Yeah.
if that's the issue, it's 10,000 versus, you know, 60,000.
Right.
I'm just, you know, just.
But let's get back to another cost. The cost of running the building is, you know, operating expenses is
Sure.
forever. Regardless of what we say, all right, let's fundraise, let's get the money, let's fix a building. Let's just put that on over here for 1 minute. Now we have the other elephant in the room. How do we fund the electric, you know?
It's only
oil?
funded for the first year. It's only funded for this year.
They'll pay first year, and then giving the town the opportunity and time to budget into future rounds. And then you know that we'll hopefully know.
For 1 year.
They pay the first.
Pay
year.
first year,
And
right.
then what happens in the second year?
Then
We
the
have to
town would be
budget.
picking, budgeting time to budget and put it into the budget and have an accurate number after, well, having 10 months or 9 months.
So we're gonna add, does anybody know what that number approximately is yet?
It could be 10,
I mean,
12,000 maybe?
You gotta realize they're only using this building 2 or 3 days a week.
I'm just want a number,
We
man,
were,
that's
we were
all.
throwing out a number anywhere from 12 to 15. I think 15's on the high side, given the
Okay.
use is gonna be 2 to 3 days.
Just so we know
Yeah.
what we're talking about.
Absolutely,
We're talking
yeah.
$12,000 to $15,000 operating cost.
Right.
The big question when we were talking about the operating costs was the cost of electricity, because it seems like the actual units and things that would be used would be the nonprofit would be creating what they need inside the thing. But I heard that there's not going to be any refrigeration. Is that?
Well, no,
what is
I
that?
think to
Well,
clarify.
I heard something today that.
I think there was originally talked about, a walk-in cooler, walk-in freezer. I think,
I'm not doing it.
and I don't think that's on the table anymore. But there is space because senior services had a bank of 4 to 5 refrigerator/freezers in there, that I think, would be permissible, that they allowed me to do the same thing, so that it could put cheese and milk and so forth, eggs and.
Do we know what the cost was to run those? Or?
Well, that was all part of the,
That $12,000 to $15,000
$15,000.
I run a full restaurant with a walk-in cooler, 2 freezers, all kinds of electrical things in there. I run my air conditioning 24/7 in the summer because all my pilots make the restaurant so hot. And I pay maybe for all that, maybe $15,000 a year, and I'm 7 days a week, 365 days a year, okay, for my electrical. So I think everybody's getting overblown here with all these things because they really have no idea of what's going on. I run this stuff, I've run it for 25 years in my restaurant. I know what I pay, and there's no way that a little building like that is gonna cost $15,000 to run for a year.
What did it cost when we were, well, do we know what it cost when
But
we were
that was
running?
used Monday through
Yeah,
Friday by
yeah,
the
that was-
seniors.
But we
that-
were running refrigeration.
Yeah.
Yes,
they
of
had-
course we were. They had meals there every day.
Yeah.
They had senior meals there every day.
Yeah. That 12 to
Well, that's
15
reasonable then, yeah.
includes that.
That's
And then
a
12
running-
to 15,000 is
running
reasonable.
kitchen.
It's reasonable, but I think it's high, to be honest with you. But, I mean, it won't be any more than that.
So I have no problem with the concept. I do have a problem with the process. We've got something before us, and I don't know whether we're gonna spend, whether we'd have to spend 10,000 or 50 or 60,000. We've all gone through the budget process in town. We don't have any money, and we cut everybody from the PD, the fire department, the police, the school system, public works, and, 50,000 would be, a teacher, 2 police cars, half a snow fighter. And the other problem I have, because I'm not quite sure what was wrong with the 2 food banks we had. And again, I haven't visited them, so I'm speaking out of turn, but I understand that there were one at each end of town. And so to me, I'm gonna have to look at, if we're gonna put $10,000 in and then take Public Works time, which he doesn't have much time left, but if we're gonna somehow, and I know Franny well enough to know that if we throw it at him, he'll get it done. But do you take the $10,000 and buy food and stock the existing food banks?
Thing is, once you become a
So-
501c3, you can buy food for 11 cents a pound, and you could feed 10 times more people than we're feeding now.
Again, my problem's gonna be, you put $10,000.
I have order, please, this is a meeting.
And then, the other comment I'll make, because of all the cheers in the room, is I see a lot of the same people here that are telling us that the town is destitute. We got a lot of starving people that 6 months ago were here telling us the town is rich and we need to fund the Board of Ed, spend more money. So the hypocrisy is unbelievable. But I think that, we've talked about this, and again, it just came.
Can I please have order, please?
It didn't go through the budget process, and we're a government. And we have to look out for all the taxpayers. There hasn't been one vote by this council, and I don't know if it's because the council's afraid to vote, but there hasn't been one vote taken by this council on this issue. So we either got to vote on it.
Again, I'm not gonna have any more outbursts, or I'll clear the room.
We either need to vote on it or table it and wait to see this lease that's being drawn up and then vote on that. I mean, but we do have to come up with how we are gonna fund it. Now, getting to the funding. We search for pennies every budget season. And then it's like magically we have $60,000 that we can get. Well, let's remember that next budget season, because it's like, we search for pennies, we cut pennies. We go till midnight, 7 days in a row cutting pennies, and we can come up with $60,000 on a whim?
But Aunt, that can only
So-
be used for certain things, can't it?
Capital.
Right, it's gotta be used for capital no matter what.
So my thing is, with all the capital things that we don't do, why don't we gather all that money and use it? I mean, I guess it's great to have it in the bank for something like this that comes up, but how much, I guess, for another night, tell us how much money we have out there that,
We
we
did
could
go
put
through that
towards-
at budget season, as
Yeah.
to how much it was.
This is the NBIS project. There was bonding surplus funds due to the state regulations that got changed. It allowed our reimbursement to be greater from the state. It's undergoing final audit now. We should have final numbers hopefully within the next 30 days. I've been in contact with the woman 3 or 4 times in the last week. Just hoping trying to wrap it up. Once we have final numbers, we'll know what the final amount of that surplus cash is. The intention, if we don't use it for this project, it rolls to next year's
Rolls to
CIP.
next year.
And then we fund next year's CIP out of this money. So it definitely, it's not going to be lost. It's never been hidden money. It's been made
I
quite
didn't
clear
think it
all
was
along.
lost, I just.
Well, we used a lot of it this year
Right, we did.
in our
We did.
CIP.
Right, we funded the high
That was a
school
good thing.
road.
But we purposely held a lot of it back because the final audit wasn't done yet, and we didn't want to get into a situation where we used too much of it, because we have been known to be very conservative. And so we were very conservative in what we used of the surplus money until this audit is done.
Correct.
Was that letter from the state?
I'm sorry?
The letter about the audit is from the state?
That was last year's audit. That's something different. Delivered in the packet. Yeah, that's not really.
Yeah.
So to move this along, how much money are you guys willing to spend, tonight? And then the lease can be worked out.
The thing is, these numbers can, like Michael said, there's things that can be done to make this building operational that doesn't break the bank. And like I said before, there was people on this council who were willing to throw money around a lot of different places. And this helps every taxpayer in this town. If you have a license that says you live in North Branford, you can go in here, regardless of your financial situation, and get help for your family. So, there's not much else I could say about this.
I don't know about that with the food bank. I think, isn't there certain criteria for the food bank?
Frankie? Go ahead, bud.
Sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for continuing the dialogue, and I know there's been a lot of rumors circulating, a lot of things in the press, and it's important to really get the facts out on the table. First of all, it's my understanding that the food bank would be limited to North Branford residents. Secondly, this is a volunteer organization. No one is going to be paid. I heard someone in the hall raising a concern about this being created so someone could get paid. That's not the case. The town of North Branford, I believe, is the only town in the area that does not have a food bank that is able to access the Connecticut Food Bank. And as Councilman Caprio indicated, the cost of goods from the Connecticut Food Bank is so low that it's a shame not to be able to access it. Some of the issues that we need decided by the council, however you decide, and I certainly hope you decide favorably, and before I get to those issues, it's my understanding that the $60,000 that was being bantered about by the town council includes the lead abatement and the paint?
Right.
Yes, which is not necessary in order to open this building. I think if you want this building to be operational at all, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, something needs to be done with the ramp and the rear deck, no matter what. So if this building is going to be used at all for any purpose other than being locked and deteriorating as we watch it, that work needs to be done no matter what. So if the cost can be controlled, although I respect the fact that as the governing body, you are entrusted with what is important fiscally for this town, at the same time, I don't think you want to see this building deteriorate. I think the highest and the best use right now, certainly I'm biased, is to let the food pantry and the Friends of the Library utilize the building. That being said, in order to finalize the lease, and we've exchanged leases back and forth, what we're asking for is the hall and the back room. We're asking for rent of $1 a year. we're asking that the town pick up the utilities at the end of this fiscal year, which I understand is about $12,000, $10,000, $15,000 a year. We would pay the utilities through this fiscal year because that's not budgeted. We'd ask that the town, as it is now, be responsible for the repair and maintenance of that building, whether it's the exterior, the interior, the systems, etc. The term of the lease, initially what we're asking the town council to consider is a 3-year lease term which would expire on June 30th, 2017, with options to renew as Attorney Jesmond indicated. Those are the holes that would need to be filled in if the council was inclined to go forward with this project. I believe that it really is going to cost between $10,000 and $15,000 a year to have that building operational from a utility standpoint. The numbers, in order to access there's a program called the Emergency Food Assistance Program. It's called TFAP. The financial qualifications are for a single person must have income of $26,000 or less. 2 people, $35,000. 3 people, $44,000. 4 people, $54,000. And I'll ask this council, how many families are there of 4 that are living on $44,000 a year? I had a friend come up to me this weekend, and they had to get a battery for their car. It was $175. And everybody knows most people are living close to the bone. There wasn't $175 to use. They had to move money from their food budget because that's the only liquid money they had to get the battery for their car. I think what you're going to find is if we're allowed to create this opportunity, the public will embrace it, work together, come together as a community, as we always do. Look at the Potato Festival, look at the other events. This is a great community with a great town, and this is an idea that we've been kicking around with people in town, as the mayor is well aware, for a couple of years now. It seems like it's the right time, the right opportunity in order to utilize the building for any purpose whatsoever. The ramp and the rear porch have to be dealt with, no matter what, unless you close the building and lock it up. So I'm asking you if you can allow this to go forward. My plan and hope and sincere prayer is we can prove to you in 2.5 years that you made a great decision at a minimal cost per capita to the people of this town, because what they will get back will far exceed what you've put in. So those are the holes we're asking to be filled and to be considered by the council in the lease tonight so that we can go forward. But I also recognize that this is up to you. You are the governing body, so whatever you decide is what we will live with. I just hope that we're able to convince you that from a fiscal standpoint, the costs are being controlled. What is going to have to be done to that building is going to have to be done anyhow. So if you have any questions, please ask them. If I can answer them, I will. If I can't, I'll ask those in the room to answer them. I just want to make sure that we're clear on the facts. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Frank, you've looked at the building, obviously.
Yes.
Closely, and I understand, of course, you're not an engineer, you're not a building expert. You're saying the necessities are the ramp and the rear porch. I take that as a representation from you. I accept it without question. I've driven by the building. I have never even pulled in the parking lot. Or if I have, it's been 20 years ago.
Right.
Can that building be utilized without doing something with the siding? Whether it's vinyl, paint, whatever, whether it's this quote or something else, is it feasible to operate what you're anticipating doing there with the condition of the exterior of that building the way it is now, realistically?
That's a very fair question. And ideally, we would love to see it scraped, the lead abated, removed and painted and/or sided. But we've been assured that we can operate that building without the paint situation being taken care of. And from my own personal standpoint, I would rather see that building operational with the paint flaking than saying we can't make it operational because the paint is flaking. I don't know if I've answered your question. I'm not trying to, I would love to see
I
you
appreciate
paint
the
and
answers.
vinyl
It's
it.
as honest as you can make it.
Frank, I have a question. Some people have been asking me in terms of, well, why do we have to, it's a larger building, I think, than people realize, because I actually
Yes.
did drive in and looked around. And some people have asked me, well, can we just start in the back? Like, why does the food bank need the whole hall and the thing, could the hall be used for other purposes for the town, et cetera? And I just want to know what the answer is to that. So.
And that's a great question, because you would think, geez, that rear space at 700 square feet, that should be plenty of space. We have to be able to have desk space for computers for people to work at. We have to have a reception area for people because people can't be wandering around. We need a storage space to store food that is not already in the shelves and on the shelving. I went out to Guilford last week, and they have a freestanding building. I'm going to guesstimate it's maybe 800 square feet. They have certain operations off-site. They're screaming to enlarge it and double it and move because it's so inadequate. And as I talked to the Guilford Social Services Director, I said, I raised this issue. I said, what about the building size? She said, you need much more because of the way the shelving's laid out, because of the way the storage is, because of the way the food's distributed, because of the way the inventory is done. It sounds like 700 should be plenty. It's certainly better than half of a small room here. But I think to do it right, to have people feel that this is a place where it's a setting where they feel welcome, comfortable, and we want people to come in and utilize it, I think we need the larger space. We just do.
Plus, there's regulations for food storage that you have to follow also.
Well, the refrigerators,
Even shelving and stuff, too.
Yeah. So if it was let's say the two spaces combined were 1,400 square feet, that would be great. I think the spaces are bigger than that. Rather than hamstring us to the little space and not be effective or nearly as effective as we could be, I think we need the whole space. Plus, we need to be isolated from other users. And I don't know that there's another effective use of I think this is the best use of the hall.
Well, I just want it to be out in the
your call.
public so that everyone can hear. I think that those are perfectly reasonable.
And
I just want to make sure that, if that's a question that's left unsaid, I want it to be said so that no one, when the time comes, when a decision is made, that everyone will feel comfortable with the decision.
Insofar as running it, when I was, Branford's purely volunteer. Guilford, the social services director, who's a town employee, runs it along with a volunteer. Plus, they have another paid person on staff. We're certainly not planning on that. If this becomes so successful that there's hundreds and hundreds of people using it, then who knows what's down the road, but this is purely volunteer. But thank you for the question.
So on your floor plan for the main hall area where you have a waiting room and reception area?
Yes.
Are you building walls to separate those?
No.
Then how are you separating them?
Fran, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't there a wall that runs between the back area and the main hall?
Yeah, the doors.
Right. But the waiting area, and that's for the storage area, where you're saying, what we're going to do is, we're not going to build walls. We're going to have an area where there's seats and a seating area for people to sit, a reception area with a desk, because people are going to have to check in, because you have to track the statistics of the people using the food pantry. So we would not be building walls. But that area would be separate, even though it would be open, it would be separate from the actual shopping area. It's more of an open, it's more of an open layout.
Okay, because in previous meetings and descriptions, it was said that, there was the whole privacy issue so that other people couldn't be there. So if there's no walls or everything, I don't see where the privacy issue becomes.
I don't think there is a privacy issue like that. I mean, the statistics are private and they're kept private.
Right.
But insofar as people seeing other people, I don't believe that's a concern.
Okay.
No, that's a whole.
And I think, Wendy, that's not a concern when people come to Branford.
No, they're all, we have an area,
Wendy is the director of the Branford Food Pantry.
Could you please step up to the microphone? Thank you.
Right,
This is Wendy Coles.
And I'm with Branford Food Pantry and have been for 28 years. we have an area where they come in and there's a couple of tables and chairs that they can sit down. And then there's a bank of shelves that we have. Ours are a little different because they slant. Doesn't matter. It's just a little bit different than your setup will be. And then they go around and get all their fresh produce and their bread and the fresh eggs and stuff. And then they're out of there. And a lot of them know each other anyway. We've gotten to know them, obviously, through the years. And one other thing I'd like to bring up that Frank didn't do with the TFAP program, we have what's called client choice. And that's really important with the food bank now, because the government is starting to require this for people to be able to come into, at least I'm pretty sure it's the government, but for people to be allowed to pick out their food versus handing them a bag of food and saying, well, here's your food for the week. And that's one of the reasons you really need an area for shopping versus, and you have another area that you really need a separate area for the storage and sorting of food. Because otherwise people come in and they want all that food that just came in today that you haven't sorted yet, and the food on the shelves is going to stay there. So it's a matter of, there's all kinds of reasons that you need the sorting space separate from the other, so that people don't go back there and just rummage through and take everything before all the stuff in the front that they should be taking is used. So there's those kinds of considerations that you have to consider.
I have a question for you. Is Branford, is it run by the town or is it a 501c?
No, it's a 501c3, yeah. And it's in a town building. And we're a little bit different because we are the previous, it was a school, and then in 1998, 99, they decided to, oh, well, it became the police department. Sorry, I forgot that part. And then when they built the new police department, we were able to take it over as the Volunteer Service Center. And we house a dining room, the food pantry, a clothing bank, and the Friends of the Library in 4 separate entities. And we pay like $1 a year lease. That's our lease. And
Frank, could you clear up for me, so you started off rattling off income levels for a single person, you know, couple, and so many people in a family. So how does that work? Somebody has to show you their income tax to get
Wendy, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they don't show you their income tax, but they fill out a form that tells you what their income is.
correct.
And that
So everybody has to fill out a form.
Once a year.
Yes.
Once a year that says.
It's what we call the TPAP form. And it has on there what he was telling you about the different amounts that they're, you know, paying. And then they sign it. So if they're lying to us, about what they're making, it's between them and the government, not between me and them.
Yeah.
Right.
Because if they're sitting there telling me that they need food, I'm gonna say go for it. Now, also, in our we have a social worker who does the majority of our clients. We also take, if BNA or ministers, whatever, call us up and say, I have this family that needs help, can you help them? Absolutely. I mean, I'm not gonna say, is this your salary? Because if you're telling me that you need food, I'm gonna give it.
Pretty obvious you need food.
As long as we have it.
And the other thing is, those numbers under the TFAP program, I think 51% of your clientele has to fall within those guidelines. So those are not exclusive guidelines. You need to prove to the Connecticut Food Bank that here are our statistics, here are the forms, 51% of our people qualify, so they can get the TFAP food at the greatly reduced rate in addition to the other food. So those above those income levels are not precluded from using the food bank.
Oh, so those people can use the food bank also? The
Yes.
49%?
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Right?
Yeah,
Yes.
as long as they're, and Mike is our social worker, and he has ways that he figures out whether they, because, you know, they may be bringing that in, but what is their mortgage payment, for example? And what other bills do they have, like what medical issues do they have, where they're paying astronomical amounts for medications and stuff. So all that is kind of taken into effect, even though paper says you can make this much.
And
I
that's,
take all that into account.
That's my understanding. In order to say with 100% accuracy, I certainly need to do more research, but I know that you have to show that 51% of your clientele falls within those income levels.
What's a realistic time frame in terms of if we were to go ahead with the project to do the renovations, the bare minimum necessary renovations for the event to open? What would be the time frame in terms of how long it would take for ramp or whatever to be made?
If you were to streamline this and just try to break it down to a concept where Fran has quoted a prefab, concrete, low-maintenance back staircase. That could be done, you order it, throw it in a week's time. It's whether or not you want to go with the option of saying, okay, the ramp currently is functional, patch it, repair it. How much is that going to cost to, patch and repair? I don't know that answer. I mean, that would have to, but,
I thought the current ramp doesn't comply with ADA, that it has to be replaced.
Well, I don't think it, I'm suggesting, and this might be totally wrong, but I'm suggesting that it's functional now and that you make it shored up and that you make accommodations. We have that there because you need to get somebody in a wheelchair through. Otherwise, it's functional, it's a ramp. So I'm suggesting that somebody that needs to get to the ramp, even though it's been used for years and we didn't have issues, right? Now all of a sudden it's, we look at it, it's out of code because it's an older design. I don't know, but I'm thinking that if somebody calls, there's a provision within ADA to make accommodations. Whether that is short-term or long-term, I don't know, but I'm willing to pursue and find out in order to knock this down to say, maybe we can.
Where do we have to go to get the answer?
The building official has to answer that. See, the problem he's gonna have is that the building was mothballed. So now we're changing use. So in the building code, anytime that happens, you're supposed to bring it up to code. The only person that's gonna question it is our own building official. So you need to get the answer from him.
Is there a state agency we can appeal to and ask for a waiver?
You can appeal to the, state building official. But I think that would only happen if somebody challenged it. The problem is, because I went out and looked at it with Franny, the problem is it's not as long as it needs to be or as wide as it needs to be. Was there even a rail on it? I can't remember.
Yes, there's on one side.
I mean, we do have to go to the building special. You could patch it, but it does not meet code. And exactly what Al says, a new use, the top stoop alone needs to be like 6 by 6. You're supposed to be able to open a door and be on the downhill side of it. So
should be.
Fran, with all due respect, we're being asked to invent and print $60,000.
Yeah.
Other people are gonna have to make some accommodations as well. Can the building inspector live with this thing? Can it function?
I can't answer that. He's got to answer it.
He probably could. I think the way it would work in the building code is if he said it was okay, and then we just made sure it was safe. If somebody challenged it, or somebody couldn't get up it or something, and then challenged it, we may be forced to fix it then. But I'm pretty sure that the building official would just say, make it safe, make sure the rail is safe, and.
I, for one, can be convinced to take that risk.
Oh,
$60,000 is where I sort of go.
I think, Mike, when we met, I thought that talking about the ramp, I thought the tenor was that the use can be, we could utilize it, and if we needed to bring the food outside to somebody, we could do that as an accommodation. I'm not sure if long-term the existing ramp is adequate.
Right, and I think, and that's my point. I think there's some wiggle room for accommodation. Right. But again, talking to Tom about what his feeling is, and then gives this council a year's time or longer in the budget process to wait for the audit to figure out, if you want to do something, when you want to do it, in terms of the long-term capital of that building. It's just an idea.
And it's also, people could fundraise for that. That could be the project, the capital
Absolutely.
project for the year. We're going to do this, and we have to raise this much money, and that's what we're going to do matching. Or, I mean, I think there's lots of ways. I think it's a team. We want to. Town needs to be comfortable. The volunteers need to be comfortable in a safe place that's up to code, so. I mean,
Franny, is the outside rail safe at the moment? On the ramp?
I mean, we have to patch that spalling concrete, and that mat that's on there and have to be probably replaced.
So if we can get this up and running at a reasonable time, and then work on, like Counselor said, some volunteers or maybe some donations, we can replace that ramp in a year or 2 or 3, maybe with donations. But if we get it up and running, we can start business and start helping people. What's the status of the 501c3?
We, not knowing how you were going to vote, everything's in the hands of the lawyer. We haven't submitted it.
Okay, so you're waiting for a green light?
Yes.
This is what you're waiting for?
Yes.
I'm just going to bring up every issue that I've heard. I'm just going to keep bringing it up so it can just be public. So there was a concern about who has the right to go into the building. You know, I know that there was a concern that people were in the building at times that they shouldn't have been, or et cetera. I mean, in the process, it's not open now, and if it gets approved, it will, at some future date, it will be functional and open. So who gives permission and who has the right to go into that building in that time? Because I want to make sure that no one is, you know, that everyone's clear about these things.
Do you mean currently before there's a lease in place?
Possibly.
I guess I'll address both. I think until there's a lease in place, volunteers were allowed to go in and clean and paint, and curtains were hung, and that was done.
Right.
And right now, the only time we've been in there, I think, is with Fran and Mike, you know, looking at the space again, so no one is doing anything in the space. You know, as a lawyer, what my hope would be is to enter into a lease so that as soon as that lease is signed, we can go in and begin doing the setup. I mean, if the council would be willing to let us go in earlier with the idea that this lease is going to be signed, that would be great. But I would, you know, defer to you. We did get an insurance certificate. The town is named as an additional insured so that the people in our group who were using the building, if they caused damage, there was coverage. And the town manager has that insurance certificate.
Hey, Frank, one of the other questions is, I know it's probably part of the issue of the lease too, is the exact amount of space that you're going to be requiring. That's not 100% ironed out yet either, right?
Well, there's a drawing that we received from Fran that shows where the Friends of the Library space is, and then the rest of the space would be the North Branford Food Pantry space, if that's...
I thought we talked about having swing, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I thought at the last meeting we talked about the middle area being like swing space being used by both the food pantry and other users.
The regulations of the food bank preclude the use of shared space with another organization.
So that was off the table. I just wanted to be clear that that's off the table.
And we met with Liz, and that issue was vetted, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think they're good with that.
Yeah, there was a...
Who was
Liz Kaplan from
representing the Friends of the Library.
Okay.
And she was at the table. They went, you know, we hashed that out in terms of being co-located there, that they could work within the timeframes, the schedule, you know, working out parking issues, working out you know, both of them being there, with Friends of the Library being in the front portion as it's in the diagram, and
I know, I thought that there was something about the gymnastics wanting to use the middle part too, but that's...
Well, Don, I think when I asked that question earlier about how much space they need, you're talking about the entire hall plus the thing, because we had talked about possibly, like you said, like
correct.
Use, and my understanding was Frank said that it's just not possible to do it right and up to what the standards need to get access to the inexpensive food, the tea pep or whatever.
I mean, to do it the right way, the way we'd like to do it. Yes, sir.
So, you don't have to call me sir.
Thank you.
So another question for I guess for Michael is, where were we going to put them gymnastic people?
We don't know yet.
Program's over in 3 weeks.
But
we don't have that information from Pam.
Right.
Okay.
Those were all the questions I just asked.
All right, okay.
All right.
So the way the lease was going is, I mean, the way it's switched now is that the food pantry was gonna pay the first year's electric.
In the heating.
And the heating.
And heating, so they're gonna cover that.
Through June 30th.
The rest of this fiscal year.
Yes.
And the town was going to do whatever we had to do to get it so it's safe to operate.
That's the request, yes.
So Fran, what do you think? What's that number?
So we're kind of back.
Can we do it for,
Well, I mean,
like,
really, the only thing, I mean, if we're gonna
Chuck.
repair the ramp,
If Tom will let us repair the ramp.
If we,
repair the
we're
ramp,
going back to
I will make the
open checkbook.
suggestion that I think in next fiscal year, you need to really think about replacing it.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
There's no
This
doubt
is
about
going
it.
back to
And
open
again, the
check.
price that I gave you,
Right.
Is
depending on what, how.
probably the right
which
number.
direction you want me to go
In good
I'm looking
conscience.
for direction. But we need about what I said, about $2,000. I can get
$2,000
it
for the
free
back
pass
stairs
steps
and
with the
probably
ramp.
another 3 or so
And
to
then
fix
whatever I gotta
the.
do to the front to get that ramp.
What you do.
So the first question is whether Tom would sign off on it. I mean, that has to be answered
I
right
think before
away.
we vote on
So
it,
we
we
need to
have
have a
to have
couple,
some of these,
the gymnastics question,
we have to have
the
some of these
building
questions
official.
answered.
By the next time we vote on it.
So it's gonna get tabled again till September then.
In all due fairness, too, I see there's a woman in back raising her hand. I think there was a few other people that wanted to speak, so I'm going to allow them to come up, too.
Well, I can't talk from here.
No, you
No.
have to come up, I'm sorry.
Say your name.
Please state your name, too, for the record.
Betsy Fitzgerald, senior citizen.
Thank you.
Well, there's so much talk about the ramp and whatever, which, you know, you have to do what you have to do. I went, several times a week, you know, for years, over to the Senior Citizen Center for lunches, or for projects, or all kinds of things like that. One thing that I think is very important while you're working on the ramp is you need to have an automatic door opener. Because whether you go up like with my cane or with a walker or a wheelchair, you know, unless you have somebody else with you that's going to go in front and open the door, it's going to be kind of hard for somebody, you know, to get over that little ledge with the door, pushing the door in front of them. So I would like to see you incorporate, you know, an automatic door opener like you have out here to help those of us who need a little assistance. So that's it. I'll let you go back to your work. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's a valid point.
7,500, but that's a valid point.
I just have one comment unrelated, going back to the lease. I pulled out the lease from 1997 between the town and the Historical Society. It's a very similar situation. It's a nonprofit using a town building. So it seems like we've already got this document in place that maybe John can use as a starting point and use that as the base to go forward. Or it's already, you know, already happening in place where they pay the $1 a year, they pay the utilities according to this lease, and the town's responsible for all the capital items. We did the furnace last year and everything else. So
That's huge.
Is there a way in the lease that we could put a not to exceed amount in terms of the running costs, the utilities?
Well, you mean if the town is paying for them?
Well, I mean, for the second year, saying that this goes forward, that if the town, I think it's reasonable, the town does the capital improvements, it's a town building, the town should be responsible for that. Town should have liability for that. I think that's important. People can help the town pay for that, which I keep on bringing up. But the second thing is, so say if it goes for the second year, then, I mean, the concern, I'm trying to think of all the concerns that we're having so we can get to a possible yes. And if the concern is we don't have a hard number to know how much it's going to cost the town in 2 years, we've talked about 12,000, 15,000, et cetera. I mean, if we can come up with a not to exceed amount, certain for the utility costs, and that would maybe at least help people to feel comfortable, because I don't want to we're going to keep tabling this because there's always going to be another question, but either we're just going to do it or we're not going to do it. I think that's what we have to decide.
Either we're going to do it or we're not going to do it.
So
I'm not sure you need a not to exceed for the operational.
yeah, like it's not to exceed $15,000 or, and you know, I'm not sure.
I think you're just gonna budget it knowing
Once it hits a certain
what the first year
amount,
is,
shut
you
it
put what you think is a reasonable number in the budget, and then see what
As soon
happens.
as it hits a certain.
Yeah, I know, that's
unplug
really
it.
unreasonable. I'm just trying to figure out how to, because we're always going to have questions.
You have
I'm
to have a
gonna-
budget, you have to have a number.
We have some historical information though about how much it did cost when it was open 5 days a week. And although things are more expensive these days, it's probably not going to be a lot more.
The only thing that concerns me, if I may, and it's a concern that can be remedied, but Anthony, you mentioned the Totucket Historical Society lease, and I'm aware of that. And we pretty much have followed the Branford food pantry list because it was more specific to the needs here. But all this discussion about compromising on safety issues with regard to use of the building is almost counterintuitive to the main purpose of the food pantry, which is to provide charity and assistance to town residents by way of food. But if we're going to be jeopardizing them when they access the pantry in any way, or jeopardize them more than if they were to enter any other town facility, I don't know that we're not being self-contradictory. And for an example, the Totucket Historical Society, as you just mentioned, almost went out of business, I'm told, because a resident tripped on a crack in the sidewalk. And, you know, this is something that, this whole discussion just concerns me, that presumably the food pantry folks will be taking out insurance that will cover any personal liability and indemnify the town, which means that the town in no event will ever have to pay for any injuries. But I think that relates to the full disclosure to the insurance company. If I'm the insurance company, you know, I'm gonna want to make sure that everything that is supposed to be done for safety purposes has been done. Or else they're not going to pay if something happens, even though we think we've cut the budget or skimped enough on it so that technically we can get by and things like that. So I think you start with the building official, but the law is the law. I'm not sure that you're going to get insurance for buildings or accessories to the building that are not compliant with the law. And if somebody gets seriously hurt, and it's determined that the town is the one that approved or failed to approve matters that should have been corrected, I don't know where that puts us with regard to the liability insurance policy. I know you mentioned you have one in case somebody does some damage to the. I'm less worried about that than I am about human life and
It certainly
person.
covers for personal injury as well. I want to say it's $1 million per occurrence, 2 million aggregate, but Mike has that insurance certificate.
And I just want to, and the insurance company does not need to know. They're just going to insure it without any inspection whatsoever.
They issued the policy. I don't think anybody came out. I don't think, as we're talking, I don't think you can have a non-compliant staircase that's not if it's not grandfathered in ad infinitum. So as I think Fran indicated, at some point in the not-too-distant future, you would probably have to budget for the capital improvement for the ramp.
Well, I think we're mixing two things here.
Is
If
that what you're talking about?
somebody is injured in the period of time before we decide that we have to be compliant, that's not going to help us if the town has incurred liability for that. I think this is an easy question to answer, but I think it ought to be combined with the building inspector.
Sure.
And if the insurance company doesn't care, they don't want to, if they don't have to inspect the building, as long as the town, and this is the fiscal authority in me speaking on behalf of the town, as long as the town is indemnified by the insurance company, then I think the interests of the town are protected. I hope the safety of the residents who access the building are also being protected, and that we don't have to access the insurance. But keep in mind that I know folks don't want to spend more money than they have to, but I think the building inspector is very important in here to make sure that the folks are protected in this town.
Certainly.
Who are seeking to access food.
Certainly.
That ramp was still there when we were using the senior center, right? When the senior center was open, that ramp was in use?
Right.
Yeah.
Mr. Newbit, would you come up?
I think any money you put into that ramp, you're more or less wasting it. Within 2 years, you're gonna be doing the ramp anyway. The concrete is so deteriorated. I think Al realized that, Franny telling you that. You're wasting your money here. It's gonna be back within less than 2 years if you do it.
Well, I'll just put the ball in play here. You can approve the lease, subject to the building inspector's approval of the present state of affairs, subject to whatever repairs you may authorize Franny's department to make, and subject to evidence of satisfactory insurance.
We still don't, we're still dealing with
Open check.
an amorphous number. We don't have a number of what it's going to cost to make this building operational. How can we in good conscience vote without knowing what the dollar cost is? We've got an approximation of $60,000. We're all hoping it's not 60. If the number was 0, this debate would be meaningless and it'd be approved. But there is a number. We've got to get a handle on that to approve or not.
Well, the operational number is there. It's the getting
It's
the
the
building
capital.
up to,
Or repair.
use, safe use.
So no matter what, we have to replace those stairs, Fran, right? So that's $2,000.
Stairs are gone.
That's fine, I understand that, I just want to get that up.
That's
We
the
need to have the
So
building
that's money
inspector
that we have
weigh
to
in on
spend no
this,
matter
right?
what.
Absolutely.
Okay. Now, to patch up that ramp for a year or two, is it gonna cost us $5,000, more than that, $8,000, $10,000?
It's a guess right now, then.
It's a
Right,
guess,
well,
and we
that's
need,
why I'm trying to ask.
but we also need the opinion, from the building
I mean,
inspector.
my feeling is, and I've been out there, Al, you were out there, I mean, that ramp needs to be repaired. I mean, putting $5,000 or $10,000 into it, I would go out and buy a new car before I spent $5,000 or $10,000 on fixing the motor, wouldn't you? I mean, I can't see
Well, the thing is,
patching
either we get
or
this up and
repairing.
running, or we're gonna wait a year for it.
Yeah, but the ramp, I think is a liability. It's not ADA compliant. And I think we're taking a risk, an unnecessary risk.
Whatever you guys gonna do, I said my piece.
So, no, but I'm just saying, I think we need to fix the ramp in order to do this.
I mean, you
Right.
say that like that everybody on this council is for this, I think, if the numbers could work. Now, if you have building, I mean, I take what Al says, I mean, he's in the business. If he says the ramp
Well,
needs.
he and I went out there. I mean, we inspected it and looked at the ramp.
So
and-
we need to include the money to put a new ramp or figure out how we're gonna do this. Or get the building official to come in here and say, no, the ramp's fine, and we could just patch it up. I mean, we can't, we're throwing numbers around, we have no idea what we're even talking about.
May I speak for 1 second? There was a time, right, after the very first meeting, that so many people came forward and they wanted to make donations and they wanted to do things for this project. And one company did say that they would demo the ramp. That has to save money. Another company said that they would come forward and donate the cement. That has to save money. And then there was another company that said they would pour the job. That has to save money. But regardless of when you do it, if you don't want to do it right away, or you can't do it right away for financial reasons, excuse me, quite possibly, sorry.
Take your time.
I need water. We did talk, when we were at the meeting the other day, to Tom, and he did say that, we did talk about the accessible of the ramp, and we said if there wasn't possible for somebody to get through because we opened it with it being small and not up to code, that we could deliver the food out through the front door. And that was a possibility, that if it's not possible right away, I mean, I understand that. I mean, I understand dollars and cents. But maybe we could deliver out the front door for those who can't access, and maybe just everybody needs to come through the front door, and those who can't, we deliver and we help them that way.
But then you're going through the Friends of the Library, right? If you go through the front door? is that
Liz
what
had
you're-
no problem. Liz's intentions and our intentions after we spoke, they're going to be open for safety reasons for all volunteers involved. Their plan is to be open when we are open and closed when we're closed. That's the goal, that's the plan. So that all volunteers, young and old, are safe and secure because we're working in numbers. And that was discussed at the meeting.
It was Liz's idea, and I thought it was fabulous, because that solves a lot of issues and a lot of concerns and a lot of problems, one of which was, okay, Friends of the Library are there, but we have our space in the back, which has the bathrooms. What happens then? So it was Liz's idea to say, let's just be open at the same time, and I thought, awesome. But that just goes to show how much we're willing to work together to make this happen.
That's an answer. What about the donation thing there, Jim?
Yeah, I was going to say, I heard you mention that before, and the total cost of doing the ramp is still going to be there, but you will potentially not have to do anything for till the next budget season and/or during fundraising or whatever. If that ramp is closed off, so that the only way people who are handicapped can access that food bank is if you bring the food out to them, and that's what's understood, I think that limits certainly any liability that I would be concerned about, and it gives the town time to do what they want to do, and gives you time to do what you want to do in terms of fundraising. So I guess at budget time, the total amount would be reduced based on how much you were able to raise.
Right, but her contractor, she said that we're willing to donate all that stuff.
Well, that's...
Are they able to work on our town building and do whatever they want and donate? As long as they have the proper insurance and all that?
If all of the things that you said, if all of the people who you said were willing to donate materials and time, at the end of the day, makes a ramp, I don't see a problem there.
It's a group effort, which is really, from the onset of this whole project, that is really what I wanted. I wanted everybody within the town to come together to embrace this project and have it be positive and something good. And so to address the cap on expenses, I'm all for that. I don't have a problem with that. I'm a team player here, right? So when you take a look at the expenses, if they've gone up and have exceeded what you want, then I have no problem saying, you know what, we'll kick some in. I'm all about fundraising. I actually enjoy it. I really do. And I am willing to do my part. I really am willing to do my part, honestly. I am a team player, and I am here for the betterment of the town. That's the only reason I'm here.
I think it's a good question. One of the main concerns I have is it legal for people to, like, if we hire a contractor who's going to build the ramp, are they going to want someone to donate concrete to them? I mean, it just doesn't seem to, that's not how the world kind of operates, right?
Well, she said, I think the contractor would do the pour and do everything.
But can't
Well,
the town
three
accept-
different contractors, so
Yeah.
you need to have someone that's in charge of the project to make sure you have to have the prints, and like, who's going to do all of that part of it also.
We've had donations before.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Tilcon's
They
building-
just have to be licensed, insured.
Right.
Yeah, Tilcon's done a bunch for
Public
us.
Works building was built because of Tilcon. I mean, they donated all the concrete, the whole building.
And I can assure you that every single person that has come forward with a donation, whether it be an electrician or somebody with cement or whatever, every single person I made sure was licensed and insured and can show certificate of whatever it is you all need. I mean, it is true. And I would have them report to Fran, since he's the man.
Well, essentially, you're saying that the food pantry would be responsible for building the ramp in the lease.
Well, I didn't say that.
Well,
I
she
said,
she would get-
what I said was,
I mean-
we could come forward with donations
Yeah.
to offset the expense of the town, whether it be with demo, right?
Okay, I guess
With the pour and the cement. That's what I meant to say. If I didn't say it correctly, I apologize.
Okay, so that's what I was talking about before. You're not saying that the sum total of the several contractors that you've spoken to would equal a ramp?
No. Because you
Some
still
of
have the
them would
railings, the architect.
some of them would donate parts of it.
Which would offset the
Cost of the
with
town.
with
Yeah.
the astronomical cost that.
Okay,
right,
so we're
would
sort
help,
of back.
It would help.
Okay, so we're sort of back to if the town council were to approve this lease with conditions, let's say, tonight or when, that it would be feasible to run the food pantry with the front door bringing the food out to people who are handicapped, with the knowledge that during this fiscal year, you would be lining up people to do different parts of the ramp and raising money to complete the ramp if necessary. or reduce the amount that the town has to put in.
I'm going to let Lynn answer that, but I want to bring us back to an issue one meeting ago, and that was the concern that there wasn't money budgeted for the utilities in your operational budget. And at that time, the suggestion was made that perhaps capital funds would be used for the capital improvements. And we indicated that if that were the case, we'd pay for the utilities. What I don't want to do is find, and if there's money there that if people are willing to donate, that's great. We would like to work together. So to expect the food pantry to build the ramp and pay the utilities, that was not, I don't know that that's budgeted in our budget.
We could bring forward donations.
I understand what you're saying. I don't think that was the town's original intent to have you do to pay the utilities and make the physical improvements.
Right.
So you're basically looking for some kind of an offset formula.
Yes.
And that's something that we'd have to work out with the approval of the council, so that, the food pantry wouldn't be doing both. Isn't there a reason why the town was going to be doing the improvements, because they could take money from that budget?
Yes.
They can't take money for utilities.
Right.
So it gets a little more confusing.
So, at the second, and I wasn't here at the first meeting, but at the second meeting, and I had said several times, and then our illustrious finance director told us after the fact, there was no money in that budget. So, but if we were looking to spend, and I know we had the number of saying, okay, and I said it myself several times, which you could have corrected me, well, okay, we're paying $12,000 for the building now. So, we've talked about this so much. What's wrong with saying that we're gonna spend $12,000 to fix the ramp, fix the back stair, and move it forward?
If that's what's gonna fix the ramp, I mean, that's fine and dandy, but do we know?
Well, here's the thing,
Is that
if
12,000
they-
based on donations that she?
this is what we're gonna need. If we're gonna do it, one of the expensive things is gonna be the rail. If they can get somebody to demo it, and they can get somebody, and I don't know if it's Tilcon or whoever, can donate the cement or the concrete, and some concrete form guy or mason is gonna pour it, we need to have it designed.
Right.
And we need a rail.
That's what I'm doing. Why don't we just go and get a design done? That price is including, the 29,000 is including architect drawing, so it gets approved.
Right.
So that's the whole number there, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So we should go out and get an architect, design a ramp with the proper railings on it, and then, either, if we do it piecemeal, or we have, donations coming in, you just start knocking that $29,000.
Right, to a reasonable number then.
Right, it keeps dropping.
Right.
That's where that's where I was going with it. But
Is it
the
possible?
budget number is 29,000, so you take some out of 29, and you're gonna have an architect draw it. It's get approved by the building official, and then we go from there. You can't just get volunteers and say, build a ramp.
Right.
Right.
Because we gotta meet a spec.
Exactly.
In the interim, and I don't know how you feel about this, and I don't really know all the rules, maybe Franny, you can, but somebody did suggest that there's a possibility that in the interim, while we're working out all those other details, if maybe a temporary ramp through the front door be something that would be able to be built or whatever, not necessarily by you, but by someone. It's just an idea. I don't really know about all that stuff.
Right,
Or,
just to
like I
ramp up
said,
the
we just
stairs.
don't use it at all until it all gets taken care of.
Is that a possibility to approve a lease without saying that that's not to be used until it's brought up to code? The ramp?
Yeah, it's called a condition precedent, that we can approve a lease, we can have a lease, but
Do you
the
have a
premises cannot be used until,
Does he have a lease?
we have a draft lease
Uh-huh.
with a couple of big holes in it, basically what we're talking about tonight. I mean, what we're doing is taking the ramp and the stairs out of the picture until we can have it built for a reasonable price. And so the lease would provide that no one would be, that there will only be access through the front door as long as there are not proper ramps or railings, and that the people would bring the food out to those people who were unable to access it.
So that is a legal option that we could.
That, we can
say
put that
you use the
in.
building,
That
you
would,
can't use the
yeah,
ramp.
and if there's a violation of that, they'd be in breach of the lease. We have an interest in not only protecting the finances of the town people, but also their safety.
Yeah, and that, you know, that's a great idea, but it's against the ADA law.
But I'm wondering can the
As
premise...
a building official, it had to enforce that stuff.
Al, can the premises...
All it would take is one person to say, I want to go in there. Right. And then you're going to be building a ramp in a hurry.
Plus, I don't know if we can even close that door off as far as fire. You know, the ramp is, can you use the ramp? Absolutely. Is it a handicap to code? No. But even if we had to do a little repair to it, it wouldn't even cost more than $5,000. But I don't think he's going to allow us not to use that as an exit. Even if you use the front door for a handicap, I still think you need to have that open for an emergency exit.
I'm going to go back to the building official rules on this.
Absolutely.
And he rules on it until somebody challenges it. So let him rule on it. If he feels comfortable that it's okay, we're good to go. And we all know that we have to look for volunteers and move forward with building a new ramp. But if it's fixable and he's willing to sign his name to it, there's nobody, you know, nobody that can do anything about it, other than they can say, hey, I can't get my wheelchair up and it's too steep. You know, it goes to Hartford and then you're there. But again, it was used how long? As a senior center.
By our seniors.
And then the other thing is, and that was a very good point about the automatic door at the top. However, when you do get the new ramp and there's no threshold or anything at the top of that new ramp, it is going to get easier, and you know, possibly a new door, or you know, that definitely should be looked at when somebody gets up there. You have to push a button or something to open the door.
Would that be in the design when he does his design, right?
Right.
Yeah. Because I mean, usually they do have an automatic door at the ramp. You probably have to change the door. Yeah, I mean, the door is as old as the building.
The door is
Right.
old.
You gotta have a new door. I mean, let's just get real.
Yeah, you're talking almost $10,000 to, I mean, that, we just did it
Right,
at
it's
the community
10,
center.
right.
So it's,
10 grand.
it doesn't come without a cost.
For an automatic door.
Exactly.
Right.
But in terms of tonight, so if what do we, if we're gonna go ahead and say that the food bank can, you know, is going to happen or be rally, what do we need to, what's the decision that we need to make tonight? Is it the lease, or is it, I mean, just to move this conversation along, like, what are the things we need to decide so that either we could table it until we get that information, or we can vote on it and just make a decision? Because we've already talked about this for 2 hours now, and I mean, all these are great points. I feel like I got all the information I needed to at least start making a decision, but I'm not sure. What do we need to do?
Well, in order to do a lease, you have to know the rent and how it's to be, in what form is it going to be paid, either by improvements or by payment of utilities. You need to know if there's any issue with the ADA, with being able to use the building. The food pantry, they don't want to use a building that's not safe. You don't want to have them use a building that's not safe. Those are questions that I don't think the council can answer tonight. Right. And I think the liability question goes away once we're satisfied that we have a ramp, or at least a ramp that complies with.
The thing is, if we can line up, say, the donations that Len can go out and get something on paper that says, I'm gonna supply this, I'm gonna supply that, I'm gonna supply this, then we're gonna know what we have left over to do. So we have to decide whether we're gonna have somebody design this ramp for us and do a ramp with the donations, or if we're gonna do a ramp on our own, or how we're gonna go about this ramp. I see this ramp as the biggest stumbling block of this whole building. And I think if we solve this riddle with this ramp and how we're gonna go about it, I think things will move forward a lot quicker. That's my opinion.
Kurt, can you and the building official design a ramp?
I would think so.
So do I.
You're an engineer.
I mean, to set you guys at ease, you could almost say, and Bill Newbig's in the room too. I mean, you could almost say to a competent contractor, okay, build a ramp that meets the code.
It's almost a design build in terms of, you're specifying what parameters they have to meet, and they come, they can come back with a pretty decent drawing, I think.
Right.
Again, it just, the code requirements have to be met, you specify them, you give them parameters.
The only thing that we'd want to look at is, we've got to, the old school, like the one out here with the pipes poured into the cement that then rust and blow the cement apart. So we're going to be looking at a different rail system.
Railings is
the rails got to be done differently than that. That was easy and cheap, but it doesn't work. It ruins your ramp.
So if I might bring it back to Councilman Hodgson, are there certain parameters in the lease that we can agree upon tonight, subject to the ramp issue being resolved in the lease? At least we'd have a document that we could look at and say, okay, this is a go once this is done. And those parameters, and I think the points that we left open were the lease term, which, as I indicated, the outset would be through, the initial term would be through June of 2017, with $1 a year rent, the food pantry picking up the utilities the first fiscal year through June 30th. If as Councilman Hodgson suggested, if the utilities in years 2 and 3 exceed, of course, I'd like to see the number as high as you could stomach, then the food pantry would kick in the balance. We'd certainly look at that. Repairs and maintenance of the building, the interior, the exterior, the parking lot, the snow removal, the systems would be town responsibility is what we would be requesting, as well as options to renew the lease after the first year. I think if those holes can be plugged in, we could have a document that may be 90–95% complete.
And square footage.
We've got a drawing.
I mean, has the town council agreed to the square footage?
And the square foot, and the area to be utilized by the food pantry. Thank you.
And John, just a question. Let's just say, off the wall, 5 years from now, somebody came in and offered the town $2 million for that building. Is there a way out of that lease?
Well, that's not if just one side has the right to continue to renew it every 3 years. They're always going to have $1 to do that. And that was my point earlier, that in the best interests of the town, there may be certain situations where the town would have the right not to renew it. And that might be for a loftier use of that building, or if you could sell it for $2 million or something like that. Keeping in mind that there are people who are putting a lot of their own personal time and even money in this project, so that it's not something that should be lightly not renewed if it's successful. I mean, as it stands right now, the food pantry folks could decide after 3 years or 6 years that, this isn't working out, we're not going to renew the lease. So they have the right to basically not renew the lease, or to renew it indefinitely. And it seems to me the town ought to have some sort of corresponding right for good cause to not renew the lease, other than, and it may not be for, you could sell it for $2 million, but I don't know. That's something that we'll put some, Frank and I will come up with some language. And if we can't come up with some language to recommend to the council, we can come up with language that the pantry folks are recommending, and I will come up with language that I'm recommending, and that may be something we have to thrash out. But in effect, you're giving somebody a life use, if it were almost a life use.
So I make a motion to approve the preliminary layout for the food pantry as it sits in front of us.
I'll second that.
This is just approving the square footage.
Moved by Counselor Rose, seconded by Counselor Caprio. Is there any further discussion?
What exactly are we approving?
Just the use of,
If we decide later on to go forward with it, that this is the square footage.
they have the hall and the back room.
That's
You're
well
approving
stated.
this plan.
What about the lease, so the lease that we're speaking of, we still have to wait till we.
The lease has
They
to be
can't
worked
do the
out.
lease until they know how many square.
All
feet.
right.
Yeah. If the council votes at some point in the future to do a lease, this is what they would be leasing.
Okay.
That's what Al said.
And I didn't tell you I supported it. I just want to move this along. So,
I just want to know what we're voting on, that's all.
yeah.
Okay.
So this was their plan. It's before us.
And you're voting to accept it.
Roll
Their
call.
square footage.
Mayor
That's all we're
Candelora?
voting to
Yes.
accept.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Abstain.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
I can't vote on something this amorphous. I have to vote no.
Counselor Fucy?
I'm going to vote no.
Counselor Hodgson?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes. Did it pass or fail?
6-3.
Pass.
Okay.
Well,
6-2-1.
6-2-1, sorry.
Just to approve the floor plan.
Right.
Right.
So now, what's the next step?
Cost.
I think
Cost,
Lynn's got to
building
talk with the
official.
contractors and see what we can get donated for that ramp. And
I
once
think
we
the
get
next-
an idea of what we're gonna get donated, we know what we have to do, and we could make a thing that'll, we'll all, like she says, we'll all work together and get it done.
Is it another, next step, another thing that we need to know what the building inspector is going to
Right.
approve, so that we can.
Let it
because-
open.
So that we can open the building
Yeah.
for any use.
And it's
So-
sort of a hand in hand to talk with Tom and also to talk about it in
Yeah,
an
we
in-house
can't
design
approve-
build.
understand it.
No, we can't approve to open the building yet.
Well, no, I'm just saying that we need to know what the parameters might be for that have to be brought up to, I'm sorry, let me start over. The building, someone had mentioned that the building inspector was the person that had the kind of.
That's if we're
say
patching, that's if we're
To
patching
decide
the
what's
ramp.
how we can use this building, that, Mr. Rose said that
Right,
that he's gonna say it, if he enforces it, it's fine, if
He's
not.
the only guy in town
Right.
that can say, you can use it or you can't.
So I think we need to know what his parameters are going to be.
Well, that's
so
if
that
we're
we can-
patching the ramp. That's the thing. If we're putting in a new ramp, we don't need him to do anything but say the new ramp is
Right.
fine.
Well,
Franny,
also,
could
there's
you
a
have
question
Munger
about
break
whether
out what they had for a
egress-
rail?
I'm sorry?
Could you have Munger break out what they had for a rail on
No,
the
they
bid?
just gave me a lump sum because they didn't have
Okay.
all the drawings.
So I think if we're gonna try and put a number on a new ramp, and she can get concrete, demo, and somebody to do it, we have our design, and we have the rail, and we have some sort of an automatic door. So I think really the only pieces we need are the price on the rail and the price on the door. And it could be as simple as a brand-new door works a lot easier than a really old
Retrofit,
door.
right.
So you might get one that, we maybe wouldn't have to go completely automatic yet, but I think if she truly has guys that will donate the concrete, the demo, and the work, nothing left is patching the pavement and the rail and the design, which Kurt and the building officials should be able to put together. And so in my mind, we can do all that for what we had shaken our heads to pay for utilities for the first year.
If we can do that, terrific. But we need to know what the building inspector is going to require to open the building.
I agree.
Right.
I frankly think, while the idea of an automatic door is good, perhaps if we are operating with the current ramp with the building official's approval, and we find that there are a specific number on average of handicapped people trying to access the building, maybe we make the decision that the person operating the food pantry can open the door rather than putting in a $10,000 opener.
Right.
We're spending money we don't have for things that we don't know are truly needed. what I'm objecting to here is not the concept of a food pantry. I'm not objecting to the idea of helping people in town. We have to know what we're spending before we agree to spend it. That's what I want to get a handle on. So let's get the building inspector out there. Let's find out what it is we need to get him to sign a certificate of occupancy to let the building open.
Right.
May I ask a
Find
question?
out what that cost
Don't
will
interrupt.
be through Fran and whatever other sources we have. Find out what the food bank people can reasonably raise. And then we've got a number to deal with. Then I can vote on something and say, yeah, that's an expenditure we should be making.
Right, and I think that is the
That's fair.
consensus of the council is that,
Right.
I don't think any of us were ready,
Disagrees with you.
were prepared to vote tonight,
Right.
except just for
Yeah.
what space they were going to use, because there was too
Right.
many other open-ended
Well, I think
questions
if
that
it
we
comes
didn't
to
have.
open, I think we all agree this is a good thing, but if we vote tonight, there's a good chance it will fail, because we don't have all the answers in front of us, and I don't want it
Right.
to
Oh, I think
fail.
you're
I
right.
want it to succeed, and so we have to, two partners, everyone on both sides of the team needs to know what the rules are and what we're getting into, or else it's not gonna work.
Right.
I mean, things take time, that's just how, it's a town, it's not supposed to go quickly, right?
I've been on here 5 years, I've never seen any project move this fast.
I think it's exciting, good. I think things that are for the betterment of the town are good. Like, it shouldn't take 20 years for good things to happen.
No.
But if it's, the thing is that it has to be comfortable for everyone, that people, we have to live with the decision, and that's just reality. So I think this was a very fruitful, I'm just new to this, so, whatever. But this is a very fruitful discussion, because we have to get it all out on the table so that everyone can feel comfortable. And if the answer is no, then the answer is no, but at least everyone had their chance to say what they
Right.
were against. So
Right.
I think this was great. I never want to say no to people who are motivated to do good things for people. I mean, it's good. It's just things take time, and I think that's what it just takes time.
Right.
I mean, I think this is exciting. This
we
is what
all agree
this is
on
what we
that.
want to be doing.
Ben wants
Yeah.
to say something.
This is good.
I apologize for interrupting.
No,
It was
that's
not my
okay.
intention. I'm sorry. I just have one question, and that is, it was okay for the library, for the gymnastics to utilize that building every single day from now until what was supposed to be September, but yet,
That's a town function.
Well,
It's
it
a
wasn't
town-
every
Is that
day, it was
different?
once a week.
Yeah.
It was one day a week that they
Yeah.
were in there, so it
And-
wasn't every day that they were
Right.
in
And they're
there.
a town entity, Park Rec is part of, it's in a budgeted, they're in our budget, so it's different.
okay,
Yeah.
I just wanted to understand. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So we're what are we?
Basically,
Are we waiting?
we're waiting on building official. We have to get back numbers, and all we did was approve a floor plan, and we have to wait to get back that information.
Good.
We need those numbers. And I'm going to ask if there's anybody else in the room that had any other comments they wanted to make on this subject.
My name is Heidi Kallenbach. I think what Lynn might have been referring to just then was not the budget, was really how it was operating with the stairs that are in place now.
Ramp in that condition.
And the ramp. That's what I think Lynn was trying to say.
Oh. Well, that building has been operated, it was a senior center as well, and it probably shouldn't have been operating.
Well, the issue
quite
is
frankly.
change of use also.
And it's also
Once you have a
change of
change of
use.
use, then you have to bring things up
Right.
in code. It's
Total different.
And we want to do this the right way. I mean, that's.
I'm sorry?
We want to do it the right way. I mean,
Oh,
you don't want to.
absolutely. No,
God forbid we start
absolutely, but I
a
was
food
just
bank and
wondering-
someone breaks
But
their neck. I
that's
mean,
why, 'cause it's an
Absolutely.
existing
Right.
running building.
And, yeah, gymnastics has been there forever, so.
Once
I
the
drink
use
with cheese,
changes.
I'll stop over there.
Come on.
All right, I think we put this to bed.
Hi, I'm Sherry Delgadio. I just want to say that I'm actually pretty surprised that the seniors were in that building without a handicapped ramp up to code. It's just very surprising to me, and I think shame on us as a town not having it up to code. And I also just want to say, I know it was already mentioned, but because it is a town building, whatever goes in there, whether it be the food bank or whatever transpires, it is going to have to be brought up to code, and I think that it's really the town's responsibility to make sure that happens.
Oh, I agree wholeheartedly. But also, we're at 30 mills, so, we are putting more and more people into the food bank situation. You know, we keep raising our taxes, keep raising our taxes, keep raising our taxes.
But I'm just trying to say, I'm
So you
advocating
can't
for
have
the
it.
handicapped.
I know, but you can't have
They
it
should have
both ways.
access to all buildings, especially public buildings.
I know, but you can't have it both ways. We don't want to bring in industry, we don't want to do this, but we want to tax, right? You know what,
Oh.
$30 for every $1,000, you know how much that is?
No, I understand that.
And then we go
Yeah,
through
she
the
probably
budget
just got her
season.
tax bill.
Yeah.
Yeah. We go through
I
the
pay my
budget
taxes.
season.
I don't have a problem with
We go through the
taxes.
budget
I'm
season,
for
and we're up here
education.
getting beat up.
But I'm
and-
just saying, you know,
Well-
I'm just surprised it wasn't already up to code, and I think that's a shame. And
No, you
I hope
misunderstand,
whatever-
ma'am. It was up to code.
It was up to code.
Well,
When you stopped
from what,
and the building got
1965?
mothballed, now it's not up to code. The way the code works is, if it was being used consistently,
Order.
it could continue to operate. Once it stopped operating as a senior center, and was basically mothballed, now we have to meet the current code to make a new use of the building. So that's a dilemma we're in, and that costs money.
I do understand the change of use, the bringing up to code. I'm just saying, that you had senior citizens going in and out of the building. I'm just surprised the code wasn't kept up to code. That's all. Thank you.
A lot of this town doesn't get that.
All right. Is this going to be about this?
Just one more quick comment. I'm encouraged by the dialogue that I've heard tonight. I'm very encouraged that the progress this project is going to make. One thing that I think that I hope everybody would agree on is we've talked largely about the process that we need to go through to make this happen. If somehow we can lay out an outline from where we are today to what we need to get to make this a reality, if we had that outline written out and everybody was on board with it, it would make the process a lot easier for both you and the supporters of the food pantry. Thank you. My name is Todd Aguirre.
Thank you. Very smart.
Cover a lot of ground
All right. Moving along.
Very, very good.
I'm about having it.
Relax.
No, I'm not relaxed.
Folks, thank you. Thank you.
I'm about having it.
You were
And
getting
you
a
know,
little testy there.
Don't make a move over.
You go to your bank and they'll put a box of $20,000 in. Look,
Yeah.
$10,000.
I was just getting that.
I mean, we're not social
That's what I thought was going to come
Oh, there you go.
Almost guaranteed.
He's doing it right now. Donating some money and he can get us off his back. Right here. Green shirt. Talking to Frank.
Whoa, Nelly.
Oh.
Yeah, come over. I give you some.
Leo, having fun yet? Me too.
Good discussion, man. I don't know, we'll see how it goes.
Okay.
Oh, man.
What are we on break?
I am.
I don't know.
Yeah.
John's going up to the restaurant to get some wings.
Are we taking a break, a 2-minute break? I think so.
Huh?
Yeah.
Taking a 2-minute break. Aren't you the guy in charge of the breaks?
2-minute break. 2-minute break.
What was my name? Pandemonium.
Isn't this fun, Don?
I need a drink.
Why are you still here?
He couldn't leave.
I know, it was so riveting, huh? Is that what, or are you here for the tedious
He's
work?
like this.
We're in the middle of a meeting. It's pandemonium here. What the hell is going on?
No, we got a 2-minute break.
Doesn't have it yet.
No respect. No respect.
All right, we're in CMed.
All right, let's go to CMed, because there's no one here for the bookstore, right?
Yeah.
They don't have any issue.
What's going on with CMed?
Lot of developments on CMed. In your packet, you have a one-pager, which I went to the meeting, got this from the today's meeting. They have, been talking quite a bit about their budget. So before I get into the points here, just to recap that, we had sent the letter, we'd withdrawn, but basically there's no place to go. We had put forth an RFP, sent that out. The only one to respond to the RFP was CMed. So, with AMR and looking at all the other options, nobody responded, and I think now I understand Why? Because New Haven, West Haven, Hamden have not made a decision. So everybody's in at this point for the moment, and they're going through this process of saying, okay, to the membership, you know, here's a notification date that we need to know. But in the meantime, they've reduced the budget by 30% in order to try and keep these towns in. So we really don't have a, I mean, there's not anybody going to respond to say North Branford on its own. Yeah, we'll respond to you in terms of AMR. I think they're waiting for the bigger towns. Again, New Haven, West Haven, and Hamden. They haven't made a decision. In all likelihood, they may actually stay within the compact and stay as members. But this is what the subcommittee came up with and is working on, and telling members that they'd like an indication by October 1st. You know, the other issues in terms of reducing the costs going forward and keeping members in is looking at the IT shortfall and technology, and that's where they're working and talking with Yale about getting Yale to come in as a member and help offset the technical expenses. So as you can see, they're looking about $709,000 in terms of a cost upgrade for technology, IT, of which in their reserves they have $500,000. They're hoping that Yale will come to the table, make up the difference, and be able to go forward in making these improvements, and then everybody stays in, with the exception of potentially the valley towns may already go, because some of them need the dispatching services beyond the 3 core services. So it's sort of in a holding pattern at this point, waiting to see, again, what the major and the big towns do. That really, in a formula that works on per call and per capita, you know, North Branford leaves, the other big towns say, well, we can absorb that. North Branford's there, and all the big towns go. It's tough for the smaller towns to absorb that. So I know we had sent the contract or sent the letter, and it's basically been held on the side, waiting for other towns in the compact to decide what they're going to do. So
we're still in the same place we were.
The same place. Yep, we're going along, but at a 30%, you know, reduced, you know, budget that they had laid off and taken proactive measures in terms of reducing. They're still looking. There are other issues in terms of towers, the number of calls, the number of phone lines. They're looking to reduce even more wherever they can, and gathering that information for the next meeting and figuring out if that is in fact going to hold all of the towns in. So,
all right,
that's where we're at right now.
Okay. All right, let's move to item 13, new business discussion and action. I'm going to move down to item B, which is Totucket Road Rock Quarry. I think some things have been left here at our desk. There we go.
Yeah, you have a bunch of material. I can try to walk you through it. One packet that has the color on top, okay, in green, that is your aerial photo from the state. Kurt was able to go into the files and get that, that go back to 1970. Okay, the top is most recent, and then it goes back.
This was taken in 1970?
No,
that's the most recent one.
Top is most recent, going, and then it goes backward.
The black and white.
Okay.
It has the year down in the bottom.
Got it, I see.
The year's written on the side.
Then you also have this one that has the red line drawn in it, and it's pretty much the same except for scale to show you the property line.
There's 2 with red lines.
Yeah, you have 2, and they're pretty much the same, except it's just this.
This color.
One was just blown up. It's the same one, just blown up so you could see a little bit better. You just I think, look at the top one. The red line represents the property line, and the town line is down here. There's a corner in the lower left corner, and that white line going through is what we think represents, according to GIS, best guess is the town line with North Branford, East Haven. So in essence, we did a site walk. Myself, Kurt, and Chris Barta, the assessor, were out there with Mr. DeLungo, who assisted us in terms of trying to identify where we think the town line is, and agreeing that it's right along the line. There's what looks to be a circular pool. It's no longer there, but the outlet is there, and that's pretty much where the scale house is for the operation. So as you can see, North Branford picks up most, if not all, of the structures and scale house of the operation, trailers, obviously equipment that's out there, farm equipment, and so forth. So we're able to establish where we think the town line is and what we can pick up on assessment from our side. That the assessor had sent a letter out in June that indicated that she was going to reclassify the property, a certain portion of it, for its use as industrial and no longer farmland. Things like the scale house and so forth. Much of it, in terms of the operation, in terms of the rock crushing, whatever you call it, the equipment, earth moving equipment and so forth, is placed on the East Haven side. The East Haven, you have a letter from the East Haven assessor doing the same thing, reclassifying what they have on East Haven's side. So the issue is really, I think, the one about permitting, and it's come up here before in the discussion. It's not permitted through North Branford and not permitted in East Haven, to my knowledge. I guess the argument is that for the owner that it's pre-existing non-conforming. East Haven may see it that way, and I can't really say that how they see it, but they haven't picked it up. They haven't seen any documentation in terms of permit or anything like that. So that's where we're at this point in terms of trying to figure out, talking with John, what it is that the impact. Obviously, the only entrance is North Branford. The impact of truck traffic and the heavy loads on the Totucket, Mill Road, and vicinity.
What's this white sheet?
The white sheet is a log that Mr. DeLungo gave me, which indicates the third issue of the power lines that someone had raised, and the condition in terms of encroachment upon the power lines. That is a representative's, Mr. Alan Chapman, I think is the name, is the representative from CLMP. I talked with him. He gave me his supervisor's name. He's a gentleman that was on site and took a look at surveying. And I guess they have two teams. Mr. Chapman goes out to survey and reports back what he finds. He doesn't make the evaluation. He kicks it up the chain to someone else. Mr. John Landry, supervisor, called, and I spoke with him. He was getting the information and called back later today to say that there are no issues with the power lines, according to CLMP. They have been on site. They have reviewed. I haven't seen it in writing, but that's what he's reporting to me from their findings. I don't think the report is actually written yet, but that's what he shared with me verbally. That they see,
This just shows
at this point,
CLMP
see no
was there.
issue with any kind of an encroachment upon or, concern about the integrity of the power line.
But that would be in East Haven anyway, right?
Yeah.
The power lines?
Yeah, all in East Haven.
So basically, that sheet is just showing that they've been out there and signed off on it.
Yeah, it's right. It's a log from the rock company or the, company that's out there. And two separate occasions, that individual was out and inspected.
So what can be done about the truck traffic on the roads and the condition of the road and the effect that it has on the people in North Branford that we are getting complaints from?
Yeah, I think that's something we have to defer to John on, and with respect to whether or not we can request or pursue or force the owner of the operation into coming before planning and zoning. I don't know. I mean, if it was somebody came in with a permit now and said, I want to do a quarry,
They'd get laughed out of town.
we put them through the process. Now that, it spans a town line and a portion of it in our town and majority of it in East Haven, I don't know what those legal levers are by which to proceed at this point.
So, the first thing I want to do is I want to commend Mr. DeLongo for coming into town to talk. So, so he realizes that he'd rather come and talk and pay taxes, and so that's good. If you look at these pictures, it's clearly not, and this is, and Joe, you were on zoning a long time, but it's a stretch, in my opinion, to say that that's an pre-existing, non-conforming use. Just in the things that I've done in my lifetime, when you have a non-conforming use, you can't expand it. It can't jump across the road. It can't move to, another piece of property. You can't buy another piece of property and move. So I think that a giant mistake here was made by East Haven and in the letter, and that letter is absolutely correct. I met the East Haven assessor. I met in like January on a job where I was building it, and he was assessing it, and we got to BSing. I said, what about the rock quarry up there? I don't believe we get any taxes. And he said, well, I don't get any taxes. So, he looked into it, and he's, according to the letter, has come to a deal. So you'll never convince me that this is a pre-existing non-conforming use. Our zoning went in 1962, and that farm had a little sand pit. Stuff changed in the 70s, and I believe, and this would be something for Kurt, the town attorney, or the new zoning person to look it up. I believe that the previous owners had a zoning application trying to do a gravel operation, and they were denied, and then they took the town to court and lost. And they were denied because Totoket Road was too small, and it just didn't fit the neighborhood, and at the time, there were the big trucks of 1975 aren't as big as the big trucks of today running on the road. So that would need to be dug up, found, and distributed to at least our, the new zoning person. What I would like to see, and when you look at these pictures, it's clear that there was nothing going on there till maybe the late 1990s on that side. And then the other thing is, you can't increase a non-conforming. So to go from a sand and gravel pit to a rock crushing quarry is, but that's East Haven. So, the town attorney would know, so what do? Do you sue East Haven because they approved something that we can prove with pictures wasn't pre-existing? And we get all the nightmares of the traffic. Or do we bring Mr. DeLongo to the table and say, look, if you were coming before zoning, and you know what, I'm just going by memory, so all this stuff would need to be checked out. But, well, the pictures aren't memory, the pictures are proof. So, if you were going, and I've been involved in gravel pits in other towns, when you're on a tiny road like that, you have restrictions on the hours that you can haul. And I've seen them where you can't haul from 7 to 9 in the morning and 2 to 4 in the afternoon. And that's so that the school buses and school kids, moms and dads picking up their kids, don't have to dodge triaxles on a road that's, not wide enough for a triaxle in a minivan to without somebody going into the bushes. So, I think, again, I commend Mr. DeLongo for basically coming to the table. I'm sure he doesn't like to hear what I have to say, but, the pictures don't lie. And Joe, you were on planning and zoning an awful long time, so so you would know better than me what non-conforming and all that stuff is. And then what
Somewhat
recourse?
subjective, but these pictures would seem to indicate that this is not pre-existing non-conforming use. If in 1970, 8 years after zoning, there's virtually nothing going on there, what we see presently, it would seem to me that it's been expanded beyond any pre-existing operation, even if they were doing in 1962 what they were doing in 1970. And we wouldn't know that without getting an aerial from 62 to 63 in that time frame. Taxation is one thing. Whether or not the town is inclined to permit this operation to continue is a bigger question. And our alternatives, I'll defer to John, but I think it would be a cease and desist order followed by court action, if in fact that was deemed to be the appropriate way to go.
Well, I think it's a zoning issue. It really shouldn't be before the town council at all.
Right.
Even the notion that the town assessor is unilaterally changing the zone apparently to an industrial zone, that's also a planning and zoning matter. We have a quarry zone. So planning and zoning would be the body to change the zone if it were going to be changed. And as far as being able to operate in any zone, that would likely require a special permit, which would have to be either demonstrated to have been awarded, or the zoning enforcement officer would have to decide whether or not the operation is inconsistent with the zoning regulations. So, I mean, we have a zoning enforcement officer, I guess, coming on starting Monday. And this really should not be, I know the town council has interest in this matter, but it's really a zoning matter as to whether or not a special permit should be applied for, or if one has been applied for and obtained, that would be a different situation. And whether or not it can even be, as you say, Joe, in an operation in either zone at this point.
So, but I just want to, is it in East Haven?
Well, I think the actual, from what I understand, and I wasn't party to this before, the rock crushing, et cetera, and the machinery operation is in the East Haven section, but also part of the quarry operation is trucks coming in and taking out stone. And that part is in, if I understand it correctly, in North Branford. And so that aspect of the quarry operation would be subject to our zoning regulations. Whatever East Haven is permitting in East Haven is peculiar to East Haven. It doesn't have anything to do with North Branford. I don't know. I don't know whether whether there exists a permit, or whether the zoning enforcement officer would interpret the regulations to require a permit. My off-the-hand glance would be that a permit would be required or need to be applied for. And then whatever conditions, if it were to be granted, whatever conditions might be attached to it in terms of the time of operation, et cetera, that would be something the Planning and Zoning Commission would have to take up.
So what happens between now and the time that he files an application and gets on the planning and zoning docket and everything else?
Well, if the town doesn't take any action to restrain the current operation that is taking place in North Branford, the operation will continue unimpeded. The only person in town who has the legal authority to restrain the operation would be the zoning enforcement officer, who has to, in the first instance, determine whether or not the zoning regulations are being violated. So we can't do anything.
That's our first order of business on Monday.
So what are we doing now?
We're not doing anything.
Okay.
We have no power to do anything.
Right, next.
Send it to zoning.
Well, it's
The
gonna do with us.
complicating factor is that in terms of candidate selection, was a candidate selected as a planner with a task of taking on zoning enforcement, whereas non-certified, the other candidate was certified, not selected. I don't know from a legal standpoint how quickly we can get, or if she can serve in that position. That I don't know. I don't know the answer to that yet.
See, here's the thing, so that everyone's clear as to why this is even here, and even Mr. DeLongo, you know, he's here. I mean, you know, I've been in his office. If you stay in his office for an hour, you get a complaint. Somebody calls in and complains about, you know, getting run off the road by a truck. Okay? Some of us here have gotten complaints from people about it. And you know, so that's why it's here. And hopefully, you know, we did let the zoning person know, you know, when we hired her, that was gonna be expected.
And she agreed.
So I think it's a matter of her taking the time to get herself up to speed, look at this information, see if we can't find the court case in the 70s and review that, and then call Mr. DeLongo in and talk to him.
Does she have to be certified to do this?
I think so.
Okay, so then we have an issue we gotta solve before we do anything. Obviously. Right? She's gotta get certified. Okay.
Can I say something?
Absolutely.
There's something I can do in the meantime.
Mr. DeLongo, could you come up to the microphone? I'm sorry.
There's something, you know, I acquired the property out of foreclosure because.
Could you state your name for the?
Because of the way Mr. Spezzano operated his business, but the problem is too, if there's something that I can do to make the board more happy and like hours of operation, if there's something, I'm more than cooperative. I took Mr. Pulis, I took Christine Barta, I took Kurt Weiss, I gave them the complete walkthrough. I disclosed everything that they needed to see. I'm 52 years old, I look a little older, but you people have let Spezzano do what he wanted to do on that farm for way longer before I was born. So, right or wrong, I mean, you're shaking your head, Al, come on.
Absolutely right.
You know, so we're doing our best to clean it up, clear it out of there. We're putting the stuff that's coming out of there, to putting a recycle process back on there on a 2-to-1 slope. The power company was happy, both UI and CLMP. I think I only gave you the CLMP letter, but UI was up there as well. Walked them all around. Christine asked if she could take photos. I said, absolutely, take as many as you want. There was nothing being hidden here on my part. So, and if there is a problem with North Branford, then I'll go out East Haven. But if I go out East Haven, I'm still going to come down Totucket Road. I mean, there's other businesses on Totucket Road. What's wrong with my trucks when there's, no offense, Mayor, but you got Taconic Wire, the tractor trailers. I don't have tractor trailers coming out of line. You have Page's Farm. Isn't Page's Farm have trucks out? Come on. But those are all right, though? I don't understand where the delineation is. Why are our
Mark,
trucks bad and your truck,
Mark.
their trucks are not bad?
I commended you for coming to the table.
No, I know, but come on, that was a
we
little bit
don't-
of an act.
We don't want to start counting trucks over there during the day.
No, I'm just, well, tell me where, I mean, well, you want me to have different colored trucks? What do you want?
I think, from my point of view, you know, it's all.
It's
the safety of the
Totucket
kids
Road,
and
it's a
everything
farm
else.
road, it's been a
Totucket
farm since
Road.
1890.
Absolutely. And now there's as many triaxles running out of there as come out of Tilcon.
Oh, you're exaggerating. I had Mike,
So-
did I not have, Mike, did I not bring you in the trailer and ask her how many trucks came yesterday when you asked the question, how many came out, Mike?
She said, what'd she say, 20?
20. How many come out of Tilcon a day?
I don't know that.
You must know.
I've been in line with 20.
Okay. So I'm just saying, if there's something I can do to make the board happier, I'm willing to do it, but until then, I'm gonna continue on what we're doing, and I have letters showing that there's affidavits that it's pre-existing non-conforming from East Haven. I didn't make those up. I mean, like I said, I'm 52 years old. These letters go back to before the photos are what they are, but it's pre-existing non-conforming from all the letters that they got. The town attorneys got involved. They continued us to keep going, and that's what we're doing. So I don't know what else to tell you.
Well, then, my suggestion is all the traffic go into East Haven and go find a route through East Haven, because the
I can do that.
residents in North Branford on Totucket Road, we have letters in our packet and we get phone calls all the time.
If you want to give me a tax break on the farm, then
Well, you got it all these, you got it all these years
Give me a
until
tax
they,
break, I'll go through East Haven.
until
You
they
don't want me to
just
use the road?
reclassified
You don't want me to use the
To an-
road in North Branford?
to industrial. So, I mean,
Come
you
on.
had the tax break on all the years that you were operating as a quarry, and
I didn't
it
have
was
the tax
farm.
break.
Well, it was classified as farm according to this.
I'm the new owner, so I didn't have the tax break.
Right, and you inherited a
No,
big
I'm
hit.
saying she's incorrect, saying I had the tax break. I didn't have the tax break.
But whenever.
I
what-
paid
what
my
you-
share of taxes.
You've had it from whenever you were the owner until now that they're going to
Correct.
reclassify.
And that
it.
you're correct on. And that's why we reclassified it.
So whenever
You're gonna get
whenever
the-
you became the owner.
And you're gonna get the new tax dollars that are gonna be reclassified. But to tell me don't use the road, I mean, I pay taxes. I mean, my house is up the road. I pay $14,000 a year on my house. I don't have any kids in the school system. You have no burden of me with the school system, so fix the road with my tax money. Right? I don't think I'm being unreasonable. The road in front of my house is worse than in front of the quarry. I even asked Mike if he went and saw it. He didn't even know where my residence was. And he didn't know where Page's farm was. So obviously somebody told him how bad the road was, and when we went there, Fran, was the road bad? In front of the quarry? Was it worse than in front of my house? I think
Yeah,
that
but
answers
you
that.
know what, but Mr. DeLongo, you do know if you came in to apply and you got granted that, you'd be building a brand new road. I mean, I've done subdivisions where we had to make the road wider and build it, you know? So you
I
come
don't
in here.
dispute that though, Al, but what I'm saying to you is that I inherited something and all I was doing was continuing on with it.
Right, so
And
you
coulda-
inherited
and
something.
the part that bothers me is that, and I have to say this because I know we're on TV, but you really went behind my back. I said, you could have sent me a letter and said, hey, we have a problem with you, come on in. You know what my response was from the town manager? We didn't know how to get you. I said, well, if I didn't pay my taxes, you would know how to get me. Right or wrong? You didn't know how to get me?
Who went behind your back?
I think you did, honestly. Because I've heard that Mike Malisi put it in the letter.
I got news for you, though.
You sought Mike Malisi out.
Yeah, see.
You sought Mike Malisi out. Did you or did you not? He was going to come with me tonight.
He should have come.
You sought him out.
How did I seek him out? He came
You were
out to
working
a
down the
job.
shoreline.
He
You
came
went
down-
3 houses over. He was doing an inspection and sought him
My
out.
house.
I
And
disagree
listen
with
to
you.
me here.
I'll
Listen
bring
to
him
me.
here at next meeting.
You bring him here.
Because
All right.
you sought him out. So I don't know what the ulterior motive
You bring
is.
him, and you know what I told him? You know what I told him?
No.
I told him, what's going on with the rock quarry on Spazzano's farm? So
I'm gonna bring him
I
here
was
next
going
meeting.
behind
I'm gonna
your
bring him
back.
here.
I would have been going behind Joe Boy's back if I went behind anyone's back. And you know what? Everybody needs to pay their taxes.
Hey, I'm not. I pay more
And I
tax.
commend
I pay
you
my
for coming
taxes.
forward.
I pay my taxes. I even had it there. We did a whole new tax base for everything. I'm not disputing the taxes. I'm disputing what you're telling me. Don't use the road. Can my wife use the road? If I don't send the trucks on it, can my kids use the road? I have 2 kids that live in town, one on Idaho, one on Computo. Can they use it to come and see me? Or do you want me to stop that too? I mean, you're being ridiculous.
Who told you not to? I didn't tell you not to use the road.
Just ask, go into East Haven.
with your
Okay.
trucks from the quarry.
But what I'm gonna tell
is
you,
that just the
I'm gonna
trucks?
tell you this though, Mark. I'm not a fool. I know a little bit about zoning. You do not have a pre-existing.
I have pre-existing non-conforming from Zulo's office. I do.
I'm gonna tell you what we're looking at. You know, I'd like to meet the judge that would look at these aerial photos and say there was a quarry there.
It's before my time, so what you did, I mean, was it
Okay.
right? You, for 50 years, you allowed them to bring demolition in there, and you never said anything about that. We're cleaning it up with Christine, with Laura McIntyre from the DEP right now. There's happy, we're doing it. For 50 years, I didn't bring that in there. You allowed that to happen. And the other part you're talking about that was denied was on Doolittle Piece, the gravel pit. That had nothing to do with 400 Totucket Road. So you should be accurate when you tell them that it was denied. It was on the Doolittle Piece, which is 209.
Oh, so is the Doolittle piece where the quarry was?
No, the Doolittle Piece is the gravel pit that you're talking about, that you
Oh.
represent.
Okay.
That right now is just
So
sitting
how did
dormant.
when did this rock quarry become?
You can look on the photos I have, showed the rock quarry the other day. Showed the crusher and all the conveyor belts. The picture you brought to me the other day, that Christine brought, showed the rock crusher and all the conveyor belts. So you didn't share this new picture with me.
This is a variation of the same photo, I think. It's based on our.
What do you mean
GIS.
variation?
Well, this is a.
From 1980 forward.
No, I think the one Chris showed you, yeah, right here. Chris
That's the
yeah.
crusher and the conveyor belt right there.
Yeah, it's the same photo, it's the same GIS
So
system.
where are you saying it's not there?
No, what they're seeing are aerial photos dating back to 1970.
I didn't see those.
Yeah. and-
I mean, I'd be happy to look at it too.
Yeah.
I don't know, I mean, you can tell me what you want me to do.
I just have one question for you, Mark. How long have you owned the property?
I took it over, I foreclosed it, I think it was around 92,
Okay.
which was the meaning for the name of it. If anybody's looking what it stands for.
There you go. I'm not sure I know what that means.
But like I said, I'd be more than willing to be compliant with it.
So have a look either way. It'll be cold.
Okay. Next. Everybody all set? All right.
Well, I think, you know, we're gonna just send this to zoning, right?
Yep.
Got nothing to do with us.
Right.
They didn't in the first place.
What's that?
It didn't in the first place, did it?
No taxes being paid.
Well, we established that.
And back in January, when I saw the East Haven guy and I knew it was on the boundary and I questioned it, because you know what? They all pay their taxes.
I'm sure you have all the permits, proper permits, all the additions you put on, Rose's Orchard too.
Everyone.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
Everyone.
Treat this
All
like
right.
a little Amish mafia, that's what you're treating it.
All right.
I'm from Pennsylvania, so I know that.
Moving on.
Go back to A.
We'll be back to A, TBS roof project, referral to permanent project building committee.
Okay, just so there's a little history, this was on the agenda. We approved the 824 referral from Planning and Zoning back in December, but we never moved it forward to Permanent Project Building Committee. And so that's why it's on here, so that this project can be moved forward, so that they can start working on it, so it's ready to have the new roof put on next summer.
I'll move to refer to permanent project building.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Fawnin, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wentworth.
We changed the tags around.
The other part to this, now that we're referring now, open to discussion, is if the council would like to see if this would be the opportunity to, instead of having a flat roof, to make it a pitched roof on the
Yes.
school. Because I know years and years ago, there was discussion by Councilor Rose on one of his terms about no more flat roofs, and since.
Years ago, he was right.
So that I guess we
We're
just.
gonna get a lot more years out of a sloped roof.
Yeah.
Well, looking at the footprint of that school, I think you could almost put a hip wall, like with the short truss. You know?
Yeah, I'm sure they could. I mean, they could do it on anything.
Right.
We definitely should look at that.
So the roofing project would be everything except the cafeteria, because that was done maybe 5 to 7 years ago, the cafeteria, so that is not considered in this project, because that wouldn't be eligible for reimbursement from the state, because it was done already. So we want the permanent project building committee to look at a pitched roof on this school. Okay.
All right. Do you have the motion?
Is it, I think it's just
Yeah.
to
I mean, do you have
refer it.
or do you have, all right, roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Hodgson?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Item C, waiving residency for town manager.
I'd like to move the motion that the town council pursuant to section C6-1A of the town charter, amended 11/6/2012, waives the residency requirement for the town manager, Michael T. Paulus.
I'll second that.
Moved by Counselor Angeloni, seconded by Counselor Diamond. Roll call?
Just to be clear, we're waiving it for this town manager at this time. This is not binding us going forward
Right.
for any new town manager.
Right.
His name's right.
It's
The
case by
current-
case,
Maybe it
right?
should say
His
the
name's,
current town manager.
well, his
You
name
got
is
his
right.
name
It's in-
in there.
it's
You
in
got
His
his
name
name
is in the
there.
motion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call?
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Hodgson?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item D, tax refund.
So moved.
Second.
Roll.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Hodgson?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Item E, financial items.
The one item that you have in your agenda packet, the letter that Joanne was referring to earlier from the state, just a subtitle was missing from the audit report last year. The auditors assured me they corrected it and refiled it. That's the Category 1 finding, and the Category 3 finding didn't require any refiling of the motion. What I'm working on currently that'll be before you at your September second meeting, your finance meeting, will be the Government Accounting Standards Board passed through regulations 67 and 68 that require the adoption of a funding policy for our OPEB account. We typically have had the valuation every 2 years, and we fund 100% of the ARC, but the new requirement is to have a formal funding policy in place. So I'll have that before you at your second meeting in September, along with hopefully at that point some more concrete report where we're going to be with the fiscal year wrapping up. There'll probably be some transfers at the next agenda, and also by then a financial analysis on the Tail Festival as well. So right now there's not really much to report. The fiscal year just started, obviously, so there's no report filed for July because the numbers basically are insignificant. In June, we're still working on finalizing the numbers, and the auditors are starting the last week of September. So progress.
Will we receive a letter from the state saying that the next letter that goes in is correct?
I can have get a correction.
Item 14, citizen statements and petitions.
Make a statement on anything?
Sure.
Yeah.
All you have to do is come up to the microphone. Thank you.
No, I just wanted to say that I really,
Could you please,
I really appreciate.
Alice, could you just say your name, please, for the microphone?
Alice
Thank
Lair.
you. Thank
I
you.
really appreciate the thoroughness of your discussion on the food pantry. I am really, really happy that you people are looking into everything that is related to starting a pantry. The most important thing, though, I think, is that I'm glad to see that you guys consider the tax burden that's going to be put on some of the people in this town. There's a lot of people that are on fixed incomes, and even $20 a month more is gonna be a hardship. And I know people make comments, oh, well, anybody can afford that. Well, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I'm very pleased that you people are looking into every aspect considering this project. And I want to thank you.
Thank you. Anyone further? All right.
I'll make a motion to move into executive session.
Second.
Moved by Council Busey, seconded by Deputy Mayor Wentworth. Roll
To
call.
include the town attorney, town manager?
Yeah.
Mayor Candelora?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Wentworth?
Yes.
Counselor Angeloni?
Yes.
Counselor Caprio?
Yes.
Counselor Diamond?
Yes.
Counselor Fawnin?
Yes.
Counselor Fucy?
Yes.
Counselor Hodgson?
Yes.
Counselor Rose?
Yes.
Awesome. What are we supposed to do with these things?